Chair, you have a live mic.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Commissioner meeting, first one of the year. I would like to remind you we have a pretty full agenda today, several speakers. And for the speakers, there's a three-minute limit. You'll get a warning at the 2 minute and 30 seconds. And then 30 seconds later, the little red light will go off. And if you haven't done so far, we ask that you would silence your cell phone so that Brick House doesn't go off right in the middle of someone speaking. True story. I have that experience, so that's why I'm sensitive to it. But with that, let's get started with our prayer and our Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, sir. We have our invocation by Pastor Jesse Barrett, New Hope, Naples, and then our pledge will be led by Carol Spider Trantham, U.S. Army, 1968 to 1972, Vietnam veteran, Bronze Star, Purple Heart recipient, 101st Airborne, member of Operation Vet Help.
Good morning. Heavenly Father, we come before you today with gratitude in our hearts for the elected officials who serve the people of Collier County. We ask for your guidance and wisdom as they gather to make decisions that impact our community. May every discussion and every action taken here today be grounded in integrity, fairness, and a deep desire to uplift and strengthen the community that they serve. As we approach Martin Luther King Jr. Day, we pause to reflect on the profound legacy of Dr. King. We thank you for the courage and the vision you placed within him, a man who stood boldly for justice, equality, and unity. Help us to honor his memory not only in words, but also in action, striving to build a community where every person is treated with dignity and respect. Lord, we entrust that this meeting will be yours today. We pray for your blessing over every leader, staff member, and resident of Collier County. May your peace, wisdom, and love guide us in all that we do. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Swearing in?
Chair, yes, the next order of business is going to be the swearing in of Commissioner Saunders, Commissioner LaCastro, and Commissioner McDaniel, and the oath will be administered by Judge Foster.
Where do you want us at? You want us to come down there?
We're going to bring you down individually so we can get photos.
And I'm last.
Yes, so we'll start with Commissioner LaCastro.
Yeah.
Be sure he raises his right hand.
Yeah, the correct one. The correct hand, not the right one.
Pray for me.
Judge, how you doing? No Bible?
I did not bring one.
Okay.
Did you bring one?
No, I'll put my hand over my heart.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and the government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of County Commissioner
the duties of County Commissioner
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I am about to now enter.
So help me God.
So help me God, Pastor.
We probably could have got a digital Bible from the pastor.
Commissioner, did you want any photos with your guest? Whatever you'd like.
Yeah, just real quick.
Photo op.
We'll get the judge in here too, because it makes it look official.
She's right in the front row.
Quit.
Good job.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of County Commissioner
the duties of County Commissioner
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
There we go.
You think Bert had that memorized?
Yeah, done it 100 times. Yeah.
Here we go.
That's for life.
Friend, so if I mess this up, it's his fault.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of County Commissioner
the duties of County Commissioner
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
It's been going on for like 2 weeks.
The judge was sliding in.
Yep.
Okay.
Commissioners, we'll move on to agenda changes. Once we've set the agenda, then we'll move on to the changing of the chair. So I do have several items on our change sheet today for January 14th, 2025. First is proposed add on item 10B to be heard at 11 a.m. This is a recommendation to approve the guaranteed maximum price First Amendment to Agreement number 21-7 919 ST, Construction Management at Risk, with DeAngelis Diamond Construction LLC for construction services for the Collier County Behavioral Health Project, formerly the Mental Health Facility, in the amount of $49,856,251. Authorize the chairman to sign the attached amendment and approve the necessary budget amendment. This is being brought to the agenda at Commissioner Saunders' request. Next, move item 16F4 to 11D. This is a recommendation to award invitation to bid number 24-8284 Caxambus Hurricane Ian permanent fuel tank installation to Don Wood Inc. in the amount of $667,164. Approve an owner's allowance of $123,504 for potential unforeseen conditions and authorize the chairman to sign the attached agreement. This is being brought to the agenda to the regular agenda by Commissioner McDaniel's request. Move item 16F6 to 11E. This is a recommendation to authorize expenditures for the sole source purchase of Pro Lake Keaton aerators and related materials from Keaton Industries, Inc. through a waiver from the competitive process in the amount of $250,000 per fiscal year from Keaton Industries, Inc. through fiscal year 2029. This item is being moved to the regular agenda at Commissioner McDaniel's requests. Couple of agenda notes. Item 16A14, the table should read $2,200,000 for the estimated value and $1,164,021 for the estimated value per acre for the Category C property located at 1063 Chatillon. This note is at staff's request. Also, we have items 9C and 9D are companion items to 9B, not item 9A. And finally, we do have, that, as noted before, the time certain of 11 a.m. for the central receiving facilities, guaranteed maximum price. Court reporter breaks scheduled for 10:30 and again at 2:50. With that, County Attorney.
Nothing. Thank you, County Manager.
Commissioners, any further changes to the agenda and ex parte on the consent and summary?
Commissioner Cowell.
No changes, but I do have two on the summary. 17A, I have, correction, 17B, I have meetings.
Commissioner Saunders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to have the board consider moving item 16A15 to the main agenda. That's a good news story in reference to Conservation Collier, but there are some questions I think that the public may have that I think staff, and I've talked to staff about addressing those. So I'd like to move 16A15 to the main agenda.
Sure.
Then
That-
in terms,
That would become 11F.
in terms of ex parte, I do have meetings and emails in reference to the summary agenda, item 17A and item 17B.
Commissioner McDaniel.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I have, I'm going to do my ex parte first. I do have ex parte on 17A and B, and I'm assuming we're okay with how that's all transpired. I do have a comment on 16B5. We have a new state legislator, and I would like to recommend that going forward, we double the rent for those people. And I just want that noted in the record that $1 a year is just not enough. And since they're new, we need to get more. Help offset our expenses. That's my feel-good item. My not feel-good item is Commissioner Saunders' request to move the contractual arrangement from 2 weeks from now to today with regard to the contract on the central receiving facility. I understand why Commissioner Saunders has asked for that, but on the same token, I think it's a disservice to our community from a vetting standpoint. I wasn't notified of that change until yesterday, and then an enormous amount of information was dropped on me to be read and reviewed and comment on. I won't be short on comment if in fact the agenda does sit as it is currently being recommended, but I would suggest we not allow that to transpire and hold that hearing at our second meeting in January as is previously scheduled.
Commissioner LaCastro.
I don't have any changes to the agenda on the summary. My disclosure is 17B, meetings. I'll make a comment on David Lawrence Center. It might have been last minute, although because of one of the positions I serve in on a mental health committee with the David Lawrence Center team, maybe I was a little bit more read in. I didn't realize it was being changed, but as far as the moving parts, I might be a little bit more caught up. But I'll preface it by saying whenever any commissioner up here says they want more time, they want to do a deeper dive, they're not ready, they didn't get the time, I respect that. So, you know, it doesn't matter if I feel like I'm ready and, you know, Scott Burgess is out there ready to give us a presentation. If a commissioner is requesting that, you know, they want something delayed a little bit because they want to do a deeper dive, I think that only makes what we decide in the end stronger. So it was a little bit of a last minute thing. I mean, we're not building the Empire State Building here, but there are a lot of moving parts and it's real money and some real questions. So, you know, I'll just echo that if, you know, Commissioner McDaniel's in good faith says that, you know, he would like to not move it up to today, I would support that.
And I know I'm number 3 on the light, sir.
Go ahead.
Just as a clarification, I'm prepared to hear the event today. It's the community. You can't imagine the phone calls that I received from folks in the community that were surprised that this got moved and the lack of notice. It's not me. As I said, I have my remarks and am relatively prepared. It's what I perceive to be as the taking from the community that couldn't react in that short a time frame. But thank you.
So you're good with talking about it this afternoon?
I'd rather we not. I'd rather, on behalf of the community, as I suggested, that we relocate or move it back to the second meeting in January as it was advertised and so on, and go forth.
Yeah, understand.
The clarification was it isn't me, it's the community.
Sure. You want to?
Yeah, let me explain why I brought this up and what we're being asked to do today. I am unavoidably going to miss the meeting on January 28th. There's no way I'm going to be able to make that meeting and no way I'm going to be able to call in. And so I want to have this thing heard when we have a full board. We can't put this off until February, to our first meeting in February, because our contract with DeAngelis Diamond expires on January 31 if we don't sign it and move forward with it. So I move this forward. Now, from a technical standpoint, there really isn't anything new in this document or in this agenda item. We are simply making some technical amendments to the contract we already have. And so, Mr. Chairman and members, if we do not get this approved at our second meeting in January, then the contract expires. And I've been told by DeAngelis Diamond and folks that are in the know on this that we would be facing a $5 to $6 million increase in cost if we don't continue with the agreement that we have. And so I understand that this was last minute, but I'm requesting it because it is some minor technical things that we're dealing with. Nothing new to this board. We've had several public hearings on how much this project cost. There are no surprises here. And so, Mr. Chairman, members, that's my request to move forward with this today.
Okay. I was glad to hear Commissioner LaCastro say that he agreed, because I was thinking the same thing. This is a big deal. And I'm sitting here, I'm in a rock and a hard place, or between it, because we're only going to have 4 for the second week of January. But yet we haven't had a lot of time to prepare today, nor has the public had a chance to respond. So being that this is where Solomon had to ask for wisdom, being that we are here actually to represent the public and to be the public's best interest, I guess I'll make a motion between us to move this meeting to the 28th. That'll be my motion, and we'll just decide it amongst us. So, Commissioner McDaniel?
I'll second the motion, and for a matter of comment, I mean, contracts are extended on a regular basis on all of the time. Cost increases come all of the time, and so I think the service to the community is paramount here.
Commissioner LaCastro?
Yeah, and I'll just chime in, you know, with all due respect to, you know, Commissioner Saunders. Like he said, there's nothing new here. He can put in writing, or if he's, there's many times some of us can't be here. So this isn't rocket science. So I think we can figure out, how to do it. If hopefully it's something that is acceptable to him. I mean, if he is still staunch in his position, then I also respect that, and I would love to hear, his rebuttal. But I think if we keep it on the 28th, so that we're not guilty sometimes of catching stones from citizens improperly, saying we stifle people at the podium, we don't give them time to speak, and all these things, which is grossly unfair at times. We don't want to be guilty of doing that here. But if there's something that, Commissioner Saunders, if he's unable to be here, but he can at least be able to pass to the county manager his thoughts or something like that, if there's a way to do that, I'd be for that. Let's, I think we might be, splitting hairs on this one, a bit too much. And I don't want to have a rush to judgment. But if Commissioner Saunders is staunch in saying that, hey, if I'm not here, I don't think my position's represented, or I have some concerns or whatever, and we're also up against the time frame with the contractor, then that's a real issue as well. So, I mean, I saw him light up. I'd love to, I respect what he has to say, and I just want to make sure we do it right without kicking the can.
Commissioner Colwell.
Thank you, Chairman. If my memory is right, I believe me and you, Commissioner Hall, came onto this board, I think our first meeting we had in January in 2023. They saved this particular item for us to have that 8-hour marathon meeting to make this decision to bring this forth to build a center to support our citizens here. So I don't think this is something new. This is back in 2023, we made a decision to build it. This just seems like government again, kicking the can down the road. It's not like this is a mystery. We knew eventually the contract's going to come to us, and we're going to have to look at it and have to agree upon it. So I don't know that this is something that's rushed to do. This is just a step in the process that we've already started over 2 years ago. So I mean, that's my position on it. I think the citizens have been very well versed that, they've had many hours to stand up here at the podium and express their feelings about it. So I just don't want to be the one getting accused again. There's government kicking it down the road, and now it works the same way. It's two-way streets. And then they're going to come back and say, well, they should have got it done. Now they're going to spend more money on it. So, that's just my position, so just want to make sure it was heard.
Oh, no, I don't. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Saunders.
On March 14th, 2023, the county entered into this agreement. On March 12th, 2024, the county amended the agreement. On December 10th, 2024, we heard an update and report on this project. So the public has been well informed. As a matter of fact, I don't think there was anybody here at our last hearing that was in opposition to this. We did have Scott Burgess and some of those folks from David Lawrence Center here. We didn't have a room full of people that were concerned about this. But here's kind of the issue. And to talk about rush to judgment, this is definitely not a rush to judgment. That's why I mentioned those different dates where this board has heard this item. We're going to have a split board on January 28th. We have 4 commissioners. If there are 2 commissioners that want to kill this project is dead on that date, because on January 31st, the agreement expires, and the cost will go up $5 or $6 million, and I don't see this board spending another $5 or $6 million on this project. So I'm just simply going to say today that a vote not to hear this today is a vote to kill this project, and I'm hoping that the board will not make that decision today. So, Mr. Chairman, I would ask the board not to adopt your motion.
I'll withdraw my motion. I would rather have 5 of us to hear all of it than to put us in a precarious situation with just a split board. So I'll withdraw my motion, and we'll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that.
Ex parte. I have ex parte on 17B. I have meetings, and that's it, and no changes to the agenda. And Troy, do we still have a public speaker for?
I do, Mr. Chair. I have one registered speaker for item 17B. Lloyd is, I think this is Bowen? Bowen, yes. Can you come up, sir? Right here at this mic. Please begin by stating your name for the record.
My name is Lloyd Bowen, and I'm here on behalf of Pine Ridge Plaza, which is just north of where the proposed vacation of the right-of-way is. My only concern is there's a furniture store, Pine Ridge Plaza, and a Masonic Lodge that, you know, we have a good view from the highway of, you know, traffic going by and seeing where we are. Just so long as that area between the east side of 41 and the west side of Ridge Boulevard is not trees and stuff where we can't see our buildings, I'm fine with it, like putting new sod, putting in concrete driveways, putting in gutters, all that's fine with me. I'm sort of going blind because I really haven't been able to see exactly what they're proposing. I know we're in the very beginning of it, and I will be talking to the McCabe's during this meeting and see what we can come up with.
Can I ask? Sure. You had an opportunity to speak with the developers this morning. Are you semi-satisfied that they're going to cooperate and maintain the visibility for the tenants and the businesses that are along there?
Well, basically, we had time to say hello by the time I found out who they were, so we really haven't discussed it, but they seem to be very pleasing the neighbors.
Okay.
But like I say, I'm sort of running blind because I really don't know what they're proposing to put there. I don't even know if they've got it finalized, but, you know, I just want to be part of the process so that, and not just for the properties in front of our properties, but for the property in front of their hotel, proposed hotel. Because, you know, if you put some high trees there south of where we're at, then obviously cars coming north wouldn't be able to see our area. And I know they've reduced it to just in front of their building, but I know that they do subsequently want to go up to Ridge Drive, I think it is, and all their improvements.
Well, you and I have spoke about this regularly. Lloyd's my friend from an eternity ago, and I was assured yesterday in a private meeting with the developer, and then on another happenstance meeting last week on a ribbon cutting over on Davis and 41, that the accommodations would be made so that there wouldn't be a degradation to the visibility for the businesses along that stretch. Is that I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really think it's, to me, Lloyd, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'd rather not pull the agenda item and actually have a whole big hearing on it.
Right.
And if you're satisfied with their representations to me, it's all now a matter of record. Terry's writing down all my misspoken words, so.
Well, what exactly are you going to determine today? In other words, that this goes forward and there has to be more input, or what is, or is it to grant the right-of-way vacation? I mean,
Yes.
exactly what's going to happen at when this is brought up?
That's correct. This is the granting of the right-of-way vacation.
Commissioners, Trinity can provide some clarification on the landscaping piece of this, what happens next.
For the record, Trinity Scott, Transportation Management Services Department Head. Yes, today we are, the hearing is to vacate the right-of-way along the frontage of the parcel. It is not the entire Trail Boulevard. There will be a subsequent board action for a landscape maintenance agreement for the remainder of Trail Boulevard and what that will look like, whether that's pavers and landscaping, et cetera. So we're not vacating all of Trail Boulevard. The rest of that will come back at a later date when those plans are finalized.
Well, wouldn't it make more sense to find out what they're going to put there before they grant the vacation of the right-of-way?
So this is to allow them to move forward with their site plan.
Okay.
For what they're going to do there, and that will go through an approval process as well. And as I said, the remainder of Trail Boulevard is not contingent upon this, but that would be a separate board action item.
Yeah, but when you grant the vacation of the right-of-way, would it, you know, now they've got the vacation, so then it's just a matter they would have to be approved for the size or the type of vegetation, or wouldn't it be better to have a plan? Right now, you're just saying, okay, we vacated the right-of-way, now what do you want to do?
We are retaining an easement over the property at this point to allow them to move forward through their planning process so that we can maintain that and still continue through our development process and allow them to move forward. Otherwise, it's very difficult for them to come up with plans if the board wasn't in favor of doing the vacation. That would significantly alter their plans.
Will the board have input on those plans with regard to the size of the plants and current advertising and so on?
The landscape maintenance agreement will come back to the board.
Okay, so we'll have another poke at it.
It would sure help. Like you mentioned earlier, you might be able to put it on the regular agenda, which might give me some time to talk to them, and I wouldn't even need to be here when it came up if I have agreements with them, and then you can go forward with it. Right now, I haven't even had a chance to talk to him because I didn't, know what he looked like.
Commissioner Cowell?
That's totally up to you. I'm not.
Thank you, Chairman. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if I remember looking at the topical graph that I was showed yesterday in my private meeting with the organization, or the people, that the easement comes in at one portion, and then there's a section directly in front of the hotel that I think is part of this easement decision today.
Yes.
And then the rest, where your businesses and the other businesses, they go north up trail.
Right.
That's a second phase, and that still has to be approved and planned in the future.
Right.
So this is not just by what we do today is not going to give them carte blanche to add landscaping the rest of the way. So there's just, if I'm correct, wrong, or I don't know, but I think that's the way it was. It's just a section right in front of where their property is that this will cover today. The rest from their edge of their property line going north, that's a separate meeting, or a decision through planning.
Well, it's not.
That's when your answers will be, be able to correct, be able to direct those and what you want, and we'll work together on it.
Yeah. The property directly in front of their hotel, I have no problem with.
Well, that's all we're
talking about.
No, you're also going the part that's west of Trail Boulevard and east of 41. That's
believe so.
not part of their yes, I'm sure of that.
I could ask staff, because I know we.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I hate to interrupt, but we're getting into the substance of this. Why don't we put this on the agenda, let him have his conversation with some folks, talk to staff, and
Then if we agree with everything, I
yeah,
go away and then you
it'll
can pass it later.
rather.
Or you can go away now.
Mr. French?
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Jamie French. I'm your Department Head for Growth Management and Community Development. Just one suggestion from staff, perhaps that our staff can meet with this gentleman, walk through the plans. They are available online throughout this process. And throughout this planning process, once they achieve approval, there is a 30-day period that if there is a objection to that, then that objection then would come to you as the Board of County Commissioners. So perhaps that may be the best alternative for both the community as well as the developer, so that we start that conversation between the parties and they can actually see what substantive changes that they'd be bringing forward for consideration.
That works for me.
Great. So we'll keep it on the summary. So I'll make a motion to accept the agenda and to pass the consent and summary agenda.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Good.
Commissioners, let's go ahead and, before we go to the changing of the chair, we could take care of our minutes from the December, so item 2A, December 10th, 2024 BCC minutes, and then we'll go into the chair change.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great.
Very good. That brings us to item 2B, and also if you would like chair and incoming chair will be the ceremony for the changing of the chair and the presentation of the gavel.
Great.
Commissioner Saunders.
Well, I guess, let me start off with, I do have a plaque for Commissioner Hall.
Let's do that after we seat you.
All right?
You can do that as a chair and it's more official.
All right. Then Commissioner Hall, if you have comments as the outgoing chair.
I have a few things. What a year. As basically a new commissioner, you say 2 years, but you still feel new, even though there's a lot that goes on and you learn a lot. As chair, I was really thankful that I got opportunities that I had no idea really that I would get. It would just, for instance, speaking in public at different events, You would get invitations that you normally don't get just because you're the chairman, not because you're special, but just because you're in the seat. You get to meet a lot of people that you normally wouldn't meet. People out of your district, people in the community, business leaders, influential people, and I was thankful for that, for the opportunity as well. One of the things that I enjoyed as the chair was getting to direct the flow of the meeting. I didn't really realize that you had influence over that. And I was anxious to get to the business of the people while also acknowledging the community, in certain proclamations and acknowledging the art and businesses of the month, but just not as frequent. But I still wanted to do that. It was an opportunity to be flexible, but also to be firm. And I know that that's a play on words, but it's really true. Just this morning is an example. You make decisions, off the cuff that impact a lot of people. And nobody wakes up, Commissioner LaCastro said it before, nobody wakes up wanting to do something stupid in our meetings. And so you really do have to rely on your wisdom, and I rely on divine intervention. I know that may not make sense to some and make sense to some others, but without that, I don't think this would be a very easy seat. Setting the agenda priorities, not to dictate, but to be influential in it, was a privilege of the chair. And I enjoyed that, and I will miss that because it's, like I said, for the direction of the flow of the meetings, some of that takes place. It was nice to allow all of the others to speak before me if I chose to hear their point of view, to hear their, and not have to worry about getting my input in, because as the chair, you can kind of speak when you want to speak. And I enjoyed listening first and speaking last. And sometimes that worked, and sometimes it didn't. Sometimes I'd get a little red in the face, but that's not because I was mad. It's just because I'm red in the face. Mainly just getting to be me. Not concerned about messing up, not trying to perform up here. There's no performance. I didn't feel like there was. It was just, if I messed up, I messed up. And I messed up a lot. Commissioner McDaniel would always bring it up. And I appreciated that. Kind of bring me right back in. You got to stay ahead of the airplane if you're going to be a good pilot. And as chair, you really got to stay ahead of the meeting in your mind for the things that are coming up. And I enjoyed that, but I'm also not going to miss that. Just being effective, making a difference, trying to do a good job. My colleagues were gracious. They were a pleasure to work with. They were easy to agree with, easy to debate with, easy to compromise with, and even easier to laugh with. And with that, I'll be quiet.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I do have a few comments, and I was going to read this plaque, but let me go ahead and read the plaque, and then I've got a few comments I'd like to make about your service, and then everybody on the board will have an opportunity to chime in. But this is a plaque from Collier County presented to Chris Hall, Collier County Commissioner, District 2, in grateful appreciation for outstanding leadership as chairman of the board for 2024, presented by the Collier County Board of County Commissioners, January 14th, 2025. And this talks about outstanding leadership, and I will tell you that you've exercised that in the last year, and actually in the last 2 years. Your goal was to get our budget under control. That was your priority, I believe, as stated by you. And you've done that. You've been able to bring to Collier County Resource X to help us streamline our budgeting process. We have reduced the millage rate with your leadership and with Commissioner McDaniel's leadership as well over the last couple of years. And so I think you've accomplished a tremendous amount. Looking forward to what your priorities are going to be in the next 2 years. Hopefully it won't be continuing to cut the budget so much, but I think you've already accomplished that. But thank you for your service as well. Commissioner Colwell.
Thank you. I just have to say that me and Commissioner Hall kind of developed a relationship because we were both running for office at the same time. It was quite the adventure. I didn't know what the amount of work and the amount of stress and the amount of time that you have to put in, being a county commissioner. And it was kind of eye-opening. And then knowing that, we kind of concreted in time our friendship while running for office and speaking at the same events, and and seeing that we had kind of the same mindset and strong conservative values. And then we found out that the way the chairman works and the way the commissioners have been handling it up here, it goes by the district number. And we got in the office, and I'm like, Commissioner LaCastro was in chair, and then I'm like, oh, Chris, you're next. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I could have done it, but you definitely impressed me, my friend, and you did a great job. And I thank you for your leadership this past year, and look forward to serving a couple more years with you up here. So.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner McDaniel?
Yes, I'm going to be very, very brief. You mentioned earlier when you're talking about being chair that you weren't anything special, and I would say you are special, sir. You've done an amazing job. You've, as my colleagues have already expressed, you've demonstrated great leadership, and I want to say it's an honor to have served with you.
Thank you. Commissioner LaCastro?
I don't have anything good to say. I'll pass.
It's a first.
You know what I'll say? You know what I'll say in all honesty? Think about the past few years in our country and our nation, really across the world. Some of the turmoil, the unprofessionalism of, and I'm not being partisan here, just how elected officials deal with each other, things people say in the press, things that citizens say in social media, this, that, or the other. To me, especially being a military officer, is really proud to serve my country, and now I'm proud to serve my county. At times it's been more disappointing watching what's going on in our country and in our world. But in our little microcosm here of Collier County, even when we agree to disagree, even when the vote's 3-2, 4-1, 5-0, or what have you, it's always professional, in here, and I really appreciate that. And I think that's really missed out in the public. It's easy to throw stones from the sidelines and say we're all stupid and we're doing a knee jerk and we're killing panthers and we don't care about the environment and we're making decisions in 30 seconds. Do you know the amount of hours that these gentlemen spend up here with county staff behind the scenes? This stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum, and it's unfortunate that a lot of that is lost, at times in the press and social media and this and that. So I just want to say that I've been so impressed with the 4 teammates that, I've gotten a chance to serve with up here. I don't think it's always been, this polished and professional. Really, Commissioner Saunders and Commissioner McDaniel would be able to compare previous teams, and not to throw anybody else under the bus, but we have 5 people here that really care. I've said before, sometimes, we make a vote and it's the thing we hate the least, but nobody like Commissioner Hall, echoed, and I've said this before, none of us wake up and figuring out how to destroy the county. And also our job's to separate rumor from fact. A lot of times we get, especially when you're the chair, you get emails from people that say, we elected you and you have to do the will of the people. The one thing I've learned in this job is our job is not to get elected and then be a puppet of the people and take a poll every time we vote on something. Our job is to serve with integrity, follow the law, and make the best decisions possible, and have people elect us because they believe in our experience, our qualifications, our integrity. And it doesn't mean that they're going to agree with every vote that we make, but we're not up here to just say, okay, how do you want us to vote on this one? And at times, sometimes, it's a tough pill to swallow because, you have citizens that maybe aren't following the details the way we are, but they have a very passionate view about something and they don't waste time expressing it. But, just having said that, Commissioner Hall, I think, I don't think I know, you've just done a great job here. And as Commissioner Colwell said, and I would say the same thing, being newly elected and then all of a sudden you get the gavel, that's a big responsibility. But I think, you definitely led us well. And we all get a chance to do this. It's not, like Commissioner Hall said it perfectly. It's not that any of us are something special when we get a chance. It's not like in DC where they're all electing the Speaker of the House. We all get our chance to serve, and then you get a different inside perspective, not only running the meetings, but spending time with the staff. And, regardless of what the uninformed press say or what social media says when people are venting from their couches, I'm proud to serve with these 4 gentlemen. I'm proud at the professional conversations we've had, even when we've agreed to disagree. And we've done really, really great things for the county. And we've done things that have been difficult decisions, but you have to, sometimes a decision that not everyone agrees with is better than no decision. And at times the can gets kicked enough in this country. So I just want to say I'm looking forward to the next 4 years, the next 2 years with Commissioner Colwell and Commissioner Hall, and then depending what they decide to do. And I'm proud to be part of the 5 up here, and how we've conducted business up here. I think is something that has maybe been lost, but not on the 5 of us. So thank you very much.
And according to our instructions, we need a motion to appoint the chair and the vice chair. Commissioner McDaniel?
I would be honored, sir. I would like to make a motion to nominate you as our chair and Commissioner Colwell as our vice chair for the upcoming year.
I'd like to delay that for 2 weeks.
I'm fine with that, too.
I'll second it.
I'm okay with that.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None.
And now I want to make the presentation of the plaque to you down below for some photographs.
That's my mistake for the week.
When I left here, I got a Waterford crystal vase and a Rolex watch. I don't know, it must be cutbacks or something.
Resource X.
We gotta come this way. You think we know by now, right? Stand up.
Here we go. Ready? We're going to count on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Now, it is my honor, my privilege, and excitement to pass the gavel to Mr. Saunders.
There we go.
Thank you.
That peaceful transfer of power, it's possible. It's possible, people. See? Look at that, only in Collier County, right? Somebody make note of that. Get that to the press,
There's a whole room full of people there in the back. They might be ready to go. Storming the...
Now here come 100 executive orders from Commissioner Saunders.
Commissioners, that brings us to item 2B, is a recommendation that the board authorize the new chair for both the Board of County Commissioners and the Community Redevelopment Agency, and to execute all documents approved at both this meeting and those documents which were previously approved but are pending signature.
All right, we need a motion.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion for that.
A second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Passes unanimously.
Commissioners, that brings us to item 3, awards and recognitions. We do have several today. Let's start with our 20-year attendees. The first is Zamira Del Toro, Engineering and Project Management, 20 years. Congratulations. Paul Duca, Information Technology, 20 years. Congratulations.
IT guy gets that much applause.
My email crashed this morning. No, I'm just kidding.
Moving along to 25-year attendees. First, we have Tony Camps, Emergency Medical Services. Congratulations. Alan Drescher, Emergency Medical Services, 25 years. Congratulations.
Dang, how are you? Long time no see. I do.
You guys know each other in elementary school?
Yeah, pretty much.
Jennifer Guida, Museums, 25 years. Congratulations.
See, this is nice because I get to read all your crap.
Yeah, yeah. No, these are notes. This is my filing system.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Beth Yang, Operations and Regulatory Management, 25 years. Congratulations. Moving on to 30 years. Stephen Chandler, Engineering and Project Management. Congratulations.
Your service.
All right, don't run away. Wait right there. Public Utilities, 30 years. Come on up, Matt. See you back there. Dr. George.
Dr. George, come on. Please. I'll dictate policy.
Last and definitely not least, and we hardly ever see these, we have a 40-year attendee. So everybody that's here, get ready to come up after we get Janine up here. Janine McPherson, Parks and Rec. Congratulations.
Forty. 40.
About that.
Hey, imagine that.
Can I come give you a hug?
Yes, you can. You betcha. You betcha.
We'll do our picture and then I'll come give you a hug, because all those people are.
You guys want to tell elementary school guy?
Yeah, pretty much. Help raise a kid.
All right, come on up.
Janine's boy and I grew up together in Boy Scouts.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
If any of our friends want to come to the podium and say anything positive or negative, we're wide open to it.
Check the mail.
Yeah.
Check the mail.
Yeah, it's on purpose.
Yeah.
Here we go. Ready? We're going to smile on 3. There you go. There you go. Perfect. We're going to smile on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
While they're taking their seats, one of the things that makes working in Collier County just really wonderful is we've got a great staff, from the top level management all the way down to folks that are providing services on the ground. So thank you for all of those folks that were recognized this morning for many, many years of service.
Commissioners, that brings us to item 4, proclamations. Item 4A is a proclamation designating January 2025 as a day to remember and celebrate Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream, to be accepted by Diane Keys, Parade Chair. Congratulations.
Ms. Patterson, can you put this on the overhead there? I think there's one on your. Yeah. Just during these presentations. That's okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for all you do.
I promise not to be long. Mr. Chair, County Commissioners, and staff, it's good to be back with you here again. I want to start off first by thanking you, number one, for your sponsorship. We don't take it lightly, the city of Naples and Collier County government. So we really, really appreciate it. In support of the 28th annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Parade and Celebration, which will take place Monday, January the 20th, and it will start off on 9th Avenue South and 3rd Street South and march through downtown. That will begin at 11 a.m. I want to personally invite the county commissioners out, and if at all you can make it, and pardon?
You just.
And of course, we'd like to personally invite Miss Amy Patterson out as well. So please, before I close, I do want to say on behalf of the outgoing chair that he has, from the public's point of view, done a fantastic job. And so we want to thank the outgoing chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4B is a proclamation designating January 17th, 2025 as Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Prayer Breakfast Day, to be accepted by Wynn Watkins and distinguished guests. Congratulations.
Picked it up.
Good morning. No one asked my opinion, but I'm going to give it. We have one of the finest group of commissioners anywhere.
You know, that's
Yes,
one
any
thing that I think
measurement.
four of us here, but I think that's one thing all 5 of us would agree with.
Yes, sir.
So thank you,
That's
thank you.
right. I appreciate the work that you've done so much for this community, and I thank you for the interaction that you do with your constituents. But on behalf of the Trinity Life Foundation and you acknowledging us on this special day, we want to remind everyone that the purpose of the Dr. King celebration is that we celebrate a great man who made a contribution to our country. But the funds from the prayer breakfast go to serve the community of Collier County. We have touched the lives of 170 youth who come out of the system from juvenile justice. Someone has to care. We care. We thank you for caring. And so we appreciate so much the opportunity to give back to these young people who need a second chance at no cost to them or their parents. So it's a labor of love. We're renewing their identity, motivating them, helping them to understand what it means to be a good citizens of the county in which we all live. So thank you so very much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Item 4C is a proclamation designating January 2025 as Human Trafficking Prevention Month in Collier County, to be accepted by Linda Oberhaus, Chief Executive Officer of the Shelter for Abused Women and Children. Congratulations.
Okay, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. For the record, I'm Linda Oberhaus. I'm the CEO at the Shelter for Abused Women and Children. And I'd like to thank our new chair, Commissioner Saunders, and our county commissioners for acknowledging January as National Human Trafficking Awareness Month. As many of you know, human trafficking is a crime that happens in every community across the country. The large majority of victims are sold online and no longer sold on the streets. According to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, Florida ranks 3rd in the nation for the number of reported human trafficking cases, and Naples and Fort Myers ranks 3rd highest for the number of cases in Florida. Here locally, the shelter is partnering with the school district to educate our children to prevent them from becoming a statistic, and partnering with the sheriff's office and the state attorney's office on a holistic approach to end sex trafficking locally. This approach, called the ISP model, identify, support, and prosecute, involves the sheriff's office identifying the victims and traffickers, the shelter supporting those victims identified, and the state attorney's office prosecuting the buyers and sellers of sex trafficking victims in our community. It's only through awareness and action that we will be successful in keeping members of our community safe. So I want to thank you again for helping us raise awareness about human trafficking within here in Collier County. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Patterson, have we recognized the Artist of the Month yet?
No, I'm going to do that next.
Okay. It wasn't on the printed agenda, so I want to make sure we didn't miss that.
If we could get a motion to accept the proclamations, please.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any objection? Show that adopted unanimously.
Thank you. The Artist of the Month. So let me turn your attention to the back of the room for our Artist of the Month for January. The January Artist of the Month is Hilda Champion, a German-American artist living in Collier County since 2001. By integrating elements of landscape, architecture, and abstraction, her work transcends conventional photography by offering viewers a transformative experience that bridges the tangible and the surreal. Through her lens, familiar scenes are reimagined as complex tapestries of texture, light, and color.
About that.
With that, we are to item 7, which is public comments on general topics not on the current or future agenda.
We have one registered speaker, Bill Schermerhorn.
Good morning.
Yes. Good morning. My name is Bill Schermerhorn. I'm a resident of Florida and a property owner of Collier County for over 20 years. I wish Commissioner Hall was here to hear this. I, too, was appointed as the chair of a very important United States commission to look into beach umbrella safety in 2021. I understand prophetically for 3 years being the chair of that very important committee, Consumer Product Safety Commission committee, the trials and tribulations of setting agendas and navigating everything that a chair has to navigate. 16 years ago, my wife and I were sitting on a beach and witnessed a horrendous accident where a flyaway beach umbrella hit a 7-year-old girl, cutting her face from her forehead to her chin and knocking her teeth out. It was an unbelievable scene. And as the day progressed, things settled down. I noticed people were still wrestling with their beach umbrellas, and I said, somebody needs to do something about this. For the last 16 years, I have been the lead advocate for beach umbrella safety in this country. In 2021, as a result of continuing accidents that occur with regards to beach umbrellas, the United States Senate, several concerned coastal senators on coastal states, commissioned the Consumer Product Safety Commission along with ASTM to go ahead and form a committee to look into beach umbrella safety. I was asked to join this committee, and because of my advocacy work over the last 16 years, I was voted as the chair of this committee. For 3 years, I authorized the consumer product safety engineers that sat on this committee to go ahead and acquire beach products, beach umbrella safety anchors. They performed all the field testing, wind tunnel testing, lab testing, and after 3 years, after rigorous debate, we finally passed the first United States beach umbrella safety standard. It's a legacy that I'm very proud of because I don't think anybody should have to see what we saw 16 years ago. Unfortunately, during the testing procedures, the Consumer Product Safety Commission engineers discovered some very, very serious flaws and some guidance that they had put forth years and years ago. I'll have this for you all to look at in the future, but if I may have just 1 or 2 more minutes.
Yes, and why don't we, if you want, we can put that on the overhead so the audience can see what you're talking
Sure.
about. Ms. Patterson, can you put that on there?
What you're about to see is a guidance sheet that was set forth years ago by the Consumer Product Safety Commission that's been adhered to by commercial entities, resorts, beach umbrella rental companies. It's undocumented, basically, as I found out through our work on our commission, on our committee. To set up a beach umbrella properly, it says, spike the umbrella into the beach, rock it back and forth to a depth of 2 feet, and tilt it in the wind. This exact procedure has caused thousands and thousands of documented injuries, as the Consumer Product Safety Commission has actually reported there's over 3,000 that occur every single year in this country. This actual procedure right here is responsible for many serious injuries, and it also responsible for the death of Lottie Belk and Tammy Barat in 2021. When the engineers actually tested this procedure and this guidance sheet, they were appalled at how dangerous this was. And they said this should never be done again. Last year, the very first ASTM F3681-24 beach umbrella safety standard passed. Municipalities throughout this country are finalizing plans on how to implement this safety standard. The safety standard is very simple. It says that an umbrella must remain secure in winds up to 30 miles an hour. It must have 75 pounds of resistance attached to the bottom of the pole. There's 2 warning labels that also, or 2 labels that have been designed and crafted by senior engineers at the Consumer Product Safety Commission that have done this for decades. And basically it says that a beach umbrella, in order to be compliant, it must have a compliant label. The label sticker is within the standard. Also the warning label, and I will give this one last. The warning label, unfortunately, was debated for over 8 months during our reconciliation and voting process. Retailers, municipality leaders, resorts, they all said this warning label that is to be posted at access points on beaches and also on products themselves says it's too graphic, it's going to scare people. Because it's pictorial showing actually what happens with beach umbrellas. This particular warning label was worked on by a senior representative from the Consumer Product Safety Commission that spent 30 years coming up with warning labels for products, ranging from children's products to every type of product, industrial, commercial products, you name it. She stood steadfast on all the opposition and said, this needs to be presented this way because people are not paying attention to this very serious problem. The very last one I've got right here, if I may, and I was not, it's interesting, this.
God bless.
These are just some very, very, just small snippet of products that are available commercially. I wasn't allowed to bring some of these samples in here because these are deemed as weapons, but yet we allow these to be on our beaches. These products are made in China, they're made overseas, with very little disregard to functionality and to safety of U.S. citizens. As we all go to the beach, I would venture to say there's probably not a single person in this room that uses a beach umbrella, if they use a beach umbrella that's manufactured in this country. They're overstated, they're over-advertised. These products are advertised that they'll hold an umbrella in a 50-mile-an-hour wind. This is putting a javelin on the end of a pole with a sail on it, and it needs to stop. So I have other meetings with commissioners tomorrow and with Naples. We have representatives all through the country that are bringing this attention to municipalities and resorts and beach umbrella rental companies throughout the entire country. The U.S. Senate is currently working on greater legislation, and the Consumer Product Safety Commission is actually considering creating a rule to make this a firm regulation to prevent these products from being imported to this country.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you bringing this to our attention. Our beaches are getting very crowded as the population grows and popularity of the continues to grow. And so I remember many, many years ago, the county commission took some action to try to make people on the beaches a little bit safer. Back in those days, you had those little airplanes with that basically had a motorcycle engine on them that you could fly without any kind of a license, and you had people literally landing those on the beach. And the county commission back in those days prohibited that type of activity. And then we got into issues dealing with boating traffic and how close you can come to the beach with your motorboat. So this is the type of thing we periodically should take a look at. Perhaps you could leave your contact information with our staff. And I understand from what you said, you're going to be talking to some other commissioners. So let's take a look at making sure that our beaches are safe. So
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Consideration. Thank you.
That was our only registered speaker for item 7.
Ms. Patterson, you want to move on to the advertised public hearings?
Yes, sir. That brings us to item 9A. This is a recommendation to adopt an ordinance amending the Collier County Land Development Code to establish provisions for permanent mobile food dispensing vehicles. This is the first of 2 hearings, and Mr. Mike Bosey, your Director of Planning and Zoning, is here. I always get your title wrong. He's here to present.
Good morning, Mike Bosey, Planning and Zoning Director. And we're here to talk about mobile food dispensing vehicles or food trucks. And just to remind the board, last February 27th, the Board of County Commissioners provided direction to staff to bring back an LDC amendment to bring back a process for all food trucks to require a conditional use hearing in front of the HECS. They wanted better control of the location and the activities around the food trucks, and that was the overriding arching direction. Also, to allow for the temporary use permits that we allow for with the 14 days and extension up to 28 calendar days for temporary events. Also, to address a letter that was received from the development community regarding compatibility analysis, physical location of generators, proximity to residential dwelling units, aesthetics related to multiple food trucks, as well as the review of the temporary use process. Address food trucks parking outside of a restaurant establishment and its placement of commercially zoned vacant lots. Clarify when food trucks are an accessory use to a restaurant establishment that permits food trucks, as well as the duration of when they can operate. And then to clarify how to control food trucks with amplified sounds related to when it's only a one-night type of an event. What we're proposing today is establishment of a new section, 50516, which is within your packet for the permanent mobile food dispensing vehicles or a food truck park. Add definitions for a food truck, mobile food dispensing vehicles, and permanent mobile food dispensing vehicle. If a mobile food dispensing vehicle is going to be permanently placed, a conditional use or a site development plan approval will be required. It exempts food trucks from operating in connection with a temporary use permit or a temporary event, and establishes the zoning districts and requirements and standards for all permanent mobile food dispensing vehicles. As we're proposing today, as you can see, the approval process in the districts. By right, without alcohol sales and amplified sound and outdoor entertainment, there would be a permitted use within the industrial, the public, and a PUD if it's listed as a permitted use within that PUD. By conditional use, it'd be with or without alcohol sales and amplified sound and outdoor entertainment if it's in the C3, a C4, or C5, or building permit. By conditional use, when you have alcohol sales as well as amplified sound and outdoor entertainment within your C3, C4, C5 building or business park, public and industrial zoning districts, and by conditional use as an accessory use to a regional park. That proposal was somewhat different than the direction that the Board of County Commissioners provided to us. The direction you provided last February was everything to be a conditional use. But in our conversations with the county attorney's office, in the way that the statutes provide for regulations related to jurisdictions for food trucks, it was opined that we should permit these as a permitted use in at least one zoning district, and we had chose the industrial and the public use. In our conversations, I know with Commissioner McDaniel yesterday, he had taken objection to that, and I know he wanted to have a discussion about that, modifying the proposed regulations to require a conditional use in all zoning districts. I've had some brief conversation with the county attorney's office related to that, so I think this would probably be an appropriate time to pause within the presentation, have Commissioner McDaniel, I think, reiterate what our conversation yesterday, and staff is prepared to take whatever direction the board would like to take in terms of the proposals related to the food trucks.
Commissioner McDaniel?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I was fairly clear when we sent direction back to staff before. I have to admit, reviewed the statute that the county attorney has, or his office has opined on with regard to the necessity for an allowance somewhere. I find it rather unique that we would be overrided at a local level for trying to maintain some kind of control over these facilities. And so it would be my request that we move this forward and as was stipulated before, do it, all of them, by a conditional use. I certainly have an enormous amount of respect for our county attorney and the opinions that come from our county attorney's office, but I had a little incident happen a couple of days ago. There was a nice lady that had traveled in from Washington, D.C., and she was a lawyer, constitutional lawyer, and I asked her, I said, you put 10 lawyers in a room, and how many opinions are you going to get? She said, well, at least 20. And so, all things aside, it would be my ask that we do in fact put that in, put all of them in as a conditional use. Each one of these uses is such an individual circumstance based upon size, shape, color, noise generation, what they do, what they don't do. I know staff has tried to abide by that, where the more intense uses in fact are in the industrial, public use, PUDs, so on and so forth. But they need to be addressed individually. There are people that live in proximity to industrial and public use and PUDs and so on and so forth that need to be able to have a voice, and especially because of the comparable use clause within our LDC, it allows for staff, somebody in staff, to say, yeah, you're okay because you're similar. And so it would be my vote that we not allow the by right at all.
No one else is lit up to comment at this point. Mr. Klaskow, do you have any advice for us?
I don't think that this is an issue if you want to make everything conditional use. Conditional uses are permanent, permitted uses. This will just protect the surrounding communities.
I certainly have no objection to that process.
So with that, I'll make a motion for approval with that adjustment for the second reading.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion on the motion? Before we get to a vote, let's go to registered speakers. Unless you have some additional information, Mr. Bosey.
Oh, just to clarify that the 28 days for temporary use permits as temporary, those are outside of the direction from the conditional use process, and that still will remain associated with temporary uses.
I didn't need to expand. That
Yes.
was already part of it, but you're
yes.
Sure.
We have no registered speakers for this item.
All right, we have no registered speakers. We'll close public hearing. Any discussion from the board? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Bosey.
Chair, we are 6 minutes from a court reporter break. Rather than starting our next land use, would you like to take the court reporter break now and then come back?
All right, so we'll come back at 20 minutes to 11. Is that
Look at that. His first
satisfactory?
act- He's given us an extra
All right.
4 minutes.
We're in recess until 20 minutes to 11. We're going to begin. If you
Chair.
take your seats, please. We're going to go a little bit out of order. We have an 11 o'clock time certain with the David Lawrence Center, so we're going to take up items on the agenda out of order until we get to 11 o'clock, and then we'll take up David Lawrence Center and the other public hearings right after that. Ms. Patterson?
Commissioners, let's go to item 10A, and with this one, just for your information, we're also gonna pull up one of the staff project update relative to the Naples Airport. So item 10A is a recommendation to discuss a resolution adopted by the Board of Directors of Ave Maria Civic Association opposing certain proposed relocation options for the Naples Airport near the Ave Maria community. And this is brought to the agenda by Commissioner McDaniel.
Commissioner McDaniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't really need to expend an enormous amount of time on this. If you wish, I can read this resolution into the record. I don't think that, what?
We didn't do the motion for Commissioner Hall to participate remotely, and in case he
sorry.
wants to give comment here, I think we should stop and do that.
Let's
My
do that.
apologies.
I apologize. I meant to do it.
Yeah. It's his first day.
Commissioner Hall, are you online?
I'll make a motion to allow him to
Yes,
be
sir.
online. How's that?
He's there.
Yeah, he's there.
All right. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? It passes unanimously. Welcome back, Commissioner Hall.
Thank you. Thanks for allowing this.
No doubt, my friend. Glad to have you back. And so, just to reiterate what I was saying, we've all read the resolution. It's a matter of record. I don't think we need to expend the time. Do we have any public speakers on this issue, in this item, Troy?
This is 10A, correct?
That is correct.
No, I have no registered speakers for this.
So with that, I'm going to make a motion. The long and the short of it is the newly created Civic Association for Ave Maria has expressed dissatisfaction with the options and some of the things that came forth from the consultants from the Naples Airport Authority for the relocation of that airport. And I'll just make a motion for acceptance of this.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Pass unanimously.
Commissioners, along with this as item 15C, we did receive a letter from the Naples Airport Authority requesting staff and Board of County Commissioner assistance with the relocation study. I'll put it on the visualizer. I believe this letter also went to each of you. However, at a past board meeting, you all had designated Commissioner Kowal as your representative for communications with the city and the airport authority.
1 second, Miss Amy, can you fix the focus, because my eyes are really good and this is blurry. There we go. And remind Commissioner Hall to put on mute while he's not speaking so that we don't hear Mrs. Hall telling him what to do.
Essentially, the airport authority is asking for expertise and collaboration from county staff and the Board of County Commissioners, and are respectfully requesting the county's assistance with the Naples Airport Authority preparation of the site selection study.
What would that entail? Just curiosity.
I'm assuming it's going to include a lot of help from our growth management folks relative to environmental and zoning. So they have some bullet points, detailed evaluation of various criteria for each of the 4 identified sites, resulting in a ranking and recommendation of the preferred site, financial analysis to determine whether the construction and operation of a new airport is feasible, including project funding scenarios. That wouldn't be us. Identification of alternatives for potential governance models, also not us. Public outreach, not us. So my expectation is that the lion's share of this would fall to our regulatory folks relative to land use and other requirements, because all of the sites obviously are outside of the city, all within the unincorporated county.
Commissioner McDaniel, you're lit up as...
Yes. I would like to make a recommendation that we send them a polite thank you, but no, we've already we've already rendered an opinion on this. They can certainly ask. We've already designated Commissioner Kowal as our liaison and spokesman for us, and I have no interest in devoting time and energy and expense on, I mean, all of these things that they're, and to reiterate, I don't mean to interrupt, Mr. Chair, but to reiterate, all these things they're asking for, if they in fact contract to buy a piece of property, they have to come back and talk to us anyway. They have to hire their own consultants to do their own environmental and their own studies as to the efficacy of what it is that they're proposing. So I have no interest in jumping in on the front end, especially when we've already designated Commissioner Kowal to liaison on our behalf.
Commissioner Colwell.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, you guys know in the past you kind of gave me the blessing to carry our word on, and here in the sunshine in a full meeting during the commissioner comments, I had brought the subject up to the four other commissioners, and it was pretty a consensus that no one here was interested in entertaining. And in the study itself, I think in phase 2 or phase 3, even if they acquired a piece of property, they have to come to us, and we'd have to do the whole land development code and everything, and convert the whatever properties would end up being in their possession. In reality, it wouldn't make a difference anyways, because it'd be in the county, and it would probably end up being the county's airport at the end of the day. But I went to the 2 meetings, both NAA meetings, the Naples Airport Authority meeting, and I expressed and I advised them of our position, that we didn't want to entertain any more moving forward with any portion of the study that brings us on board at this time. So I don't know, this letter came out after the fact. I don't know if they didn't take me seriously, but I did express your guys' feelings and what you felt and where our position was. So.
Do you need a motion on this? I'm sorry.
Yes, Commissioner Castro.
Yeah, I was just going to echo ditto everything that Commissioner McDaniel said. My short answer would be to the city and the folks that are taking a look at the airport, if you have concerns where the airport is now, do your own homework, pay for your own studies, hire your own experts. Don't lean on the county. We're not partnering on this. The suggestions of sites that have been made have not come from the county, so they might be great things to say out loud in a report, but it's nothing that the county has led. So I maintain the same position that we've had. Not that we don't care. We know that this is a hot topic, but it's more of a hot topic for the city of Naples. And I wait for them to come back to Commissioner Kowal with some homework assignments, for us, or some solutions, or some proposals or whatnot, but to share resources and use county resources and task our county staff to do the heavy lifting for them when it's something that I don't think any or many of us support doing a deep dive into. I'm really good with the kind, proper, professional letter saying, we'll continue to monitor your conversations, and our representative is Commissioner Kowal. And but as far as tapping into our staff and having them do some of the homework assignments to march down this path, I think would not be proper. So I wouldn't support that at all. I'm sure they would love it, but it's not something that I think that we should be diving into.
We have Commissioner Hall online. Commissioner Hall?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'm just going to echo the sentiments. I have no interest at all in moving forward for the city in this. I think this is the trivial few trying to represent the vital many. And until they get their stuff figured out, I have zero interest in being a part of it. And Commissioner LaCastro said it well.
Commissioner Kowal.
Yeah, I'll if you want, I'll go to the next meeting again, and I'll put, hammer it across that, we're still in the same position we were last time.
Yeah, we don't need a motion. I think everybody has spoken as to what our position is. We've done that before. So, Commissioner Kowal, if you can let this airport authority know what our feelings are in terms of moving forward.
All right, I will. Right.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I'd recommend we go to item 11B. Troy, we have public speakers on 11B. Okay. Item 11B is a recommendation to accept an update on the status of board-directed negotiations with Gargiulo Education Center, Inc. for the purpose of Collier County-owned property located at 16140 and 16144 Performance Way, no longer needed for an EMS station, including information on Gargiulo's consideration of grant funding for property acquisition costs and the construction of a child education center. Ms. Trinity Scott, your department head for Transportation Management Services, is here to present.
Good morning, Commissioners. I just wanted to provide an update. At our last board meeting, we had indicated that we would try to be back in January, and in full transparency, wanted to get back in front of the board to provide a quick update. As Ms. Patterson discussed, this is related to two parcels on Performance Way previously identified as an emergency, an EMS site. And since we will be co-locating, the property is no longer needed. The board did put out a request for proposal after we had received some interest in the property. We came back in November. Staff's recommendation was to award to Up in Smoke and sell the property for $1.3 million. The board gave direction to work on a negotiated settlement or a negotiated agreement with Gargiulo that would protect the public, contain a reverter, and include a purchase price that was more in line with our county's financial investment in the property. So our status is Gargiulo is considering financing through the county, but it's also pursuing alternative funding sources, including federal assistance. Its board of directors is expected to decide how to proceed and notify county staff of their intentions. Through this process, we've talked with some of our internal folks who do grants. If Gargiulo applies for a federal grant award, they will not be able to enter into a contract with the county until that funding award is granted, and typically that would happen towards the end of the year, so October-ish. So as a result, the board's consideration of that agreement would be delayed if they opt to pursue forward with federal funding. It's also important to note that if Gargiulo moves forward with the federal grant application and receives funds, the funds could be restricted to just the child care center and may not allow for the North Collier Fire District to be able to utilize the property as was originally intended, or at least discussed in the last board meeting. Alternatively, at any point until a contract is approved, the board may choose to select Up in Smoke as the cash buyer. We did go back and, check the couch cushions, figure out exactly how much funding we have spent to date on the property. We're at about $1.3 million. The other costs include design that we had pursued forward for an EMS station, as well as our community association fees. So the total out of pocket right now is approximately $1.3 million. So our recommendation today is accepted the update, and barring any further direction from the board, we would be back perhaps later this year with Gargiulo with a contract for that. I will note that we did notify both the representatives of Gargiulo as well as Up in Smoke and let them know that this was going to be an agenda item, that we were providing an update to the board.
Commissioner McDaniel.
And I'd be willing to withhold my comments until we have heard from the public, sir, if you would
Commissioner
be inclined.
Commissioner LoCastro.
I just had a question for Ms. Scott. Explain to me again, why did the EMS piece fall out? Did I misunderstand you?
So
'Cause that was a big piece.
EMS was the original intended user of these two parcels.
Right.
However, they are co-locating with the fire station that is I just forgot the PUD name.
Just make up one. We don't know what either.
No, but I know.
It's over there.
Down closer to Wiggins Pass. Cocohatchee.
Okay, I got you. All right.
Why don't we go to the registered speakers then, and then we'll...
Yes, sir. We have 4 registered speakers, 2 of whom are ceding time. Your first speaker is Alan Ritchie. He's being ceded time by Joseph F. Lacoute. Am I saying that right, sir? Yeah. And also by Jeff Wilson. Mr. Wilson, are you? Yes. So Mr. Ritchie will have 9 minutes, and then Mr. Ritchie will be followed by John Gray, if I'm saying this right. Mr. Ritchie. Over here, sir, please.
Take a podium.
Please begin by stating your name for the record.
My name is Alan Ritchie. I'm a volunteer board member for the planned unit development that is responsible for all of the property on Performance Way. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the ability to state our position on this. First of all, it's not a position that is related to the money issue. The money issue is clear. It's not a question of not in my backyard issue with the after-school center, learning center. I'm not a politician and I'm not a lawyer, so this ought to be very gentle. I want to emphasize that we have no problem at all with the education center and what they do and to provide valuable services to their students. Their stated major program activities from their 2024 report to the state on their 501c3 status, and I'll read it. The only and the primary activity of the Gargello Education Center is to provide a safe and after-school facility that assists the students of the migrant families, to provide tutoring, homework assistance, enrichment, enhancement of the public schools curriculum. That's their mission, their sole mission. The North Naples Research and Technology Park is a planned unit development with a board of directors and quite a few covenants, and this is all of the rules and regulations in which they have to operate. This was approved by the County Commission back in 2003, and it was ordinance number 3-26. June of 2004 is when it was approved. Essentially, the PUD is a master association for all of the property owners on Performance Way. The surplus county property deed recognizes that these restrictions also would apply to the county in terms of permitted use. And it is curious to me that they never permitted or never would have permitted an EMS station, which is kind of an interesting phenomena. They are talking about two lots that is just about an acre. Assuming this is true, that the deed restrictions for the county-owned or county-owned property specifically prohibit a daycare center, it's not a permitted use in the PUD, and therefore it couldn't be an EMS without a change in and it couldn't be a daycare center. This needs to be clarified through the county staff with a review of the deeds and that type of thing. From a board perspective, our biggest issue with a learning center on Performance Way is the safety issue of the children. There's no reason for most of you to ever go up by Performance Way because it's right on the edge of the county line, the Lee County line on Old 41. Old 41, I think the commissioners have been involved over the last few years with trying to correct the traffic problem on Old 41, and your work is cut out for you for trying to get the state, Lee County, and Collier County to all agree on how to deal with this. Old 41 is a safety disaster in many ways. Basically, having most of the children that the Learning Center deals with living on the other side of Old 41 and having been bused across the street is problematic, and it's a safety problem. The road is dangerous from Bonita Beach Road all the way down to 41. The housing area that Garzillo is very hazardous to cross that road on foot, and it's hazardous for both adults and for children. It's very hazardous for children. It's a very difficult exit for an automobile or an 18-wheeler. It's impossible in rush hour, early morning, and late afternoon to go either south in the morning or north in the afternoon. It's bumper to bumper for almost a mile back from Old 41, or from Bonita Beach Road. It's basically an industrial park, and the restricted or permitted uses and the restrictions are here. I brought copies for you've seen them. There are 3 or 4 pages of them. And it doesn't even permit an EMS facility. This safety issue is real. It's unsafe, and Old 41 at night with electric bikes and that kind of stuff, you're foolish to be even driving on it at night. It's that unsafe. And there's a person there that has a little 3-wheel motorized bike, and he's tooling up and down Old 41, and he's going to get hit one of these days soon. This safety issue is very real. The Learning Center is pretty efficient right now. 92% of their expenses are for programs and services, and that helps in raising money. They have said that they have been searching for over 3 years for property they need and that they need to expand. Their current facility is on Railhead Boulevard, which is right next to I wish I could say the Guardzillo, but anyway, it's next to the facility, the business facility there. The property on Railhead Boulevard is an older building with plenty of space to expand. There's a big sign out in front of it that says that space is for lease in the building. It would be very easy to expand in their current facility. It's an older building, but it would work. They have been negotiating since May of 2024, as was mentioned just a minute ago. There's been no contact with the board of the PUG. I don't know who they're negotiating with. Who are they talking to? Where are they getting their information? I think Commissioner Hall has been the point person on this, and as George W. Bush used to say, I don't negotiate with myself, okay? Now, I'm not a politician, but optics are important in political venue. Sound bites get done frequently. The leadership of the Learning Center has said it's all about warehouses and man caves over the needs of children. That is a soundbite. It has no basis in fact. It's not all at that at all. They are now saying they need to raise $3 million for a larger facility that's 6 times as much as they raise each year. I think we're setting them up for failure.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie.
Well, is that
That's
the
your
first
time.
3 minutes?
No, that's 9.
That was,
Oh.
You're done.
thank you, thank you.
Are there any questions? I mean, I got,
No, you're good.
Your next speaker is John Gray. You want to concede your time to him? Okay, you have 3 more minutes, sir.
okay. The, they are, I think, being set up for failure by getting into this real estate business of buying a facility that they can't really afford. They'll be totally dependent on grants. We're in an environment where government grants are tough to get and getting tougher probably. I think the commission is, or the commissioners are possibly setting this organization up for failure. I read the minutes from the November meeting of the commissioners. Commissioner Sanders, you said when they didn't reject, or when they rejected they didn't reject it, but when they ignored the high bid in the bidding process, that this would be a bit of an embarrassment if we ignored the high bid and then went to chose the lower bid, and then they couldn't deliver on the financing. Commissioner LaCastro said the county doesn't own the property, the taxpayers do. Okay, the bid that was received by Mr. Gray covers all the costs, including the updated costs that have been slightly updated from what they were a few weeks ago. And we need to safeguard the taxpayers' money. That was Commissioner Cole. This thing, I think, and Commissioner Hall said this morning that the last thing you want to do is something stupid. And this is starting to look like there's some stupidity going on in terms of killing the goose that is providing the services to the children now. We think that this ought to be studied carefully. I mean, the transportation people have done that already, and I think it's a non-starter. It's putting the children more at risk. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes our public speaker, sir.
Commissioner McDaniel, you're lit up.
Now I'm ready. I mean, we're being called here to accept an update. I don't care. I mean, thank you for the update. I find it to be an unsatisfactory update. I do not believe we should pursue this adventure any longer. I've done a little bit of outside research. I am not interested in doing business with a not-for-profit that hasn't shown the financial worthiness. When they made the offer to buy the property in the first place, I made the poor obvious assumption that they had the money. They don't have the money. That's been evidenced by their efforts to come back and negotiate with us to fund it and so on. So I think it's highly inappropriate. I want to accept the update because that's what's being done, but I want to make a motion. I can make a motion for that, and then I have a second motion I'd like to make if I may.
All right, let's hear from Commissioner Hall, and then we'll go back to you to make a motion.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I totally agree. I mean, all I wanted to do was give them a chance. There was great public benefit in it, and they've had since November. They don't have the money. They don't have the wherewithal. I asked them the question, do you have the wherewithal? Do you have the cash flow to do this? And they said yes. Well, obviously they don't. And so I have no interest. You give them a chance, and if they capitalize on that, great. And if they don't, we can move forward. And so I agree with Commissioner McDaniel. I say that we move forward.
Commissioner McDaniel?
So you want me to make the first motion and accept what we're being called for here, and then I'll make my second if I may.
The floor is yours.
Okay, the first motion is to accept the update, so staff has done their duty. So I'll make a motion for the acceptance of that update.
All right, well, I'll second that. And all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, we've accepted the report.
And then I would like to make a motion that we go back out for a brief period of time, advertise this piece of property for sale to them if they have the capacity to get anybody. I want everybody to have a shot, an opportunity to buy this piece of property, and then we bring the new offers back for reconsideration at the earliest possible date.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That Commissioner Hall, did you register a vote?
I did. I said, yes, sir.
Okay, passes unanimously.
Commissioners, that brings us to our 11 o'clock time certain. This is add-on item 10B, is a recommendation to approve the guaranteed maximum price First Amendment to Agreement Number 21-7919-ST, Construction Management at Risk with DeAngelis Diamond Construction, LLC, for construction services for the Collier County Behavioral Health Center project, formerly the Mental Health Facility, in the amount of $49,856,251. Authorize the chairman to sign the attached amendment and approve the necessary budget amendment. Mr. John Dunnick, your Executive Director of Facilities and CRAs, is here to present. Oh, this item is brought to the agenda by Commissioner Saunders.
Right, I just want to thank the board for giving me the opportunity to have this presented today instead of on January 28th. And I appreciate the staff really coming together to dot all the i's and cross all the t's in reference to that contract.
Good morning, Commissioners. And that's a great segue. You know, when we had the conversation earlier this morning about putting this on the agenda, I had asked staff, and actually did this a couple days ago, to ask staff how many times this project has seen the Board of County Commissioners in its life. And to our estimate, this is the 17th time this project has been presented over the past 7 years. And so we're kind of approaching the finish line from a facility standpoint of finally negotiating the guaranteed maximum price of a little over $49 million with DeAngelis Diamond, and we're presenting the amendment to you today. Before I move forward, I do want to take a special thank you to Brian Deloney and to Scott Teach from the Attorney's Office, because we received the guaranteed maximum price in late November, and we then did the workshop in early December. I had requested that they start working on it ASAP to lock and load this thing to be as close as possible, and basically as a working template to have it ready for potentially this agenda, knowing that we were shooting for the 28th originally. And because of their hard work in getting us to this point, we were able to bring this item to the board today. As you've seen this slide before, and a lot of the slides I'm not going to spend a lot of time on because you have seen them exhaustively. This is the project team between the county, the David Lawrence Center, Prime Consultant, Healthcare Consultants, and construction at DeAngelis Diamond. It truly takes a team effort to get these projects done, and we work closely as we were working through the design, the issues that pop up here and there to collaboratively have a regular standing meeting with the group to ensure this project stayed on track. Today's objective is to award the construction phase to the Collier County Behavioral Health Center through an amendment to the existing CMR contract that was approved last year. The Collier County Behavioral Health Center is an important community project. It was endorsed by the voters in 2018. The facility will function as a central receiving facility for those receiving services under both the Baker and the Marchman Acts, and will greatly increase mental health crisis support in Collier County. I think we've talked to you about it before. It's 87-bed increase to what's existing today, and will provide additional services for the community to come. The proposed new facility will serve the mental health needs of Collier County and expanding population moving forward. The project location is located off Golden Gate Parkway, east of David Lawrence Center and the Corpus Christi Chapel. So I think we've all seen exactly where the site is. It's expansion basically of the David Lawrence Center utilizing 5 acres that exists today. Just giving little considerations, on March 14, 2023, the county entered into the CMAR agreement with DeAngelis Diamond for the pre-construction services. Obviously, the benefit of pre-construction services in a CMAR is so that you're aligning up the design and the construction together when you're from 60% design on, so that you can actually look at efficiencies as you move forward. March 12, 2024, the board received a project update as directed to proceed with the design for the 87 beds with an estimated construction cost of $49.9 million. So for the past year, we've locked in the pricing and exactly the scope of the project. On November 22nd, 2024, we received the first draft of the GMP, which was pretty much right on the number at a little under $49.9 million. And then on December, we provided you all an update in a workshop setting, and I think the board had several questions still about the operations, which I have Scott Burgess, who is the executive officer for David Lawrence Center, as well as Ed Morton, who is the chair of the David Lawrence Center board, here to speak on those issues. Funding is a total of $49.9 million that will come from the infrastructure sales tax. That was approved in two kind of tranches, so to speak, which is $25 million in 2021, and most recently in November of another $31 million, which covers the total cost of the project. So it goes up to $56 million, which is some of the additional costs beyond obviously the CM at risk. The county is responsible for all necessary major public systems as a roof, HVAC, electrical equipment, and facilities as these capital projects come online. And we want to introduce this concept to you as a board, which is as we add new facilities, we want to make sure that you understand that we're on the hook for the capital in the long term. We need to start planning for that immediately when the building's new, so that when the rainy day comes, we've set aside funding. And so we've estimated about $460,000 a year, which was what we need to start setting aside once this building is completed to be able to handle those systems requirements down the road. The cost of the GMP amendment is $49.9 million, give or take a few dollars. The contractor overhead is 4.75%, which in my experience, and I've done several of these CMRs, is right in line with building standards and actually is a good negotiated deal. The liquidated damages is $8,000 a day if they don't meet the deadline, is frankly on the high side and is robust for the county. I would say that was a good negotiation tactic on our side. We have a total contingency of $2.5 million and a total value of allowance of about $2.475 of regular, I said contingency on one side, allowance on the others. And I think we've talked about it before what the differences are, but we'd be happy to discuss if you have any questions. The construction estimated time frame is about 22 months. So that you're talking about a project completion in the fourth quarter of 2026 when all of a sudden done. And should the board approve this agreement today, just so you know logistically speaking what will happen next, is we're waiting the final part of the permits. Once the permits are issued, we will go to closing of the acquisition of the property, and as part of that trigger of the acquisition, it will trigger the long-term lease agreement moving forward. So. And that is a 30-year agreement for the David Lawrence Center to operate this facility. With that, we're recommending approval.
All right. Before we go to Scott Burgess and Mr. Morton and other speakers, any comments from the board before we hear from the?
I'd like to. No,
right.
I'd like to.
Let's go ahead and hear from David Lawrence Center then.
Thank you. They'll hook you up.
Good morning. I have a prepared statement that I wanted to read to you, and then I have a very brief slide that I wanted to go over, and then obviously happy to have our board chair come up to share our full support and commitment of our board and our staff for this project, and then answer any questions that you might have. For the record, again, Scott Burgess, the CEO of the David Lawrence Centers for Behavioral Health. David Lawrence Center is proud and excited to partner with the Collier County to bring the Collier County Behavioral Health Center into reality. We've been fully committed to this project since day one and have been honored to work with the county staff, our partners at RG Architects and DeAngelis Diamond to design this much-needed center that addresses the urgent needs of our community now and for the future. We understand our responsibilities associated with effectively operating this center, and we maintain a strong and steadfast commitment to do all in our power to obtain the full operational funding necessary to ensure every community member in our community has access to life-changing and life-saving care, regardless of their ability to pay. We will lead the charge and will work tirelessly, just as we successfully have for 56 years in our community, to pursue every avenue of operational funding. To that end, we've identified opportunities to expand existing funding and sources of new funding. We've already met with county management team and discussed these new opportunities, and we are actively and vigorously pursuing them. We are confident that we have the right clinical, management, and board teams to address any challenges that come our way in advancement of this collective mission of care for our community. We will be honored to enhance our decades-long collaboration with the county to bring about the highest level of community health, well-being, and safety through this vitally needed facility. So to that end, I mentioned the funding sources, which I know has been an item of question. And we were made very clear by the County Commission that we needed to seek all sources to expand funding in order to expand these needed services for our community. We have private philanthropy as a major source that we are moving forward, including the naming rights. And just to be clear, because we did have this conversation in December, the naming rights, philanthropic dollars that are secured for this facility will go exclusively and solely for this facility, for the furniture, fixture, and equipment, for the operations that we've talked about, and for the maintenance of this facility. We know that we have opportunities for expansion of state funding through grants, through federal funding that are existing and can be expanded. And we've identified 2 new opportunities for increased funding, which we're already talking with the county staff around, which would be increase in the federal low-income pool funds, as well as a new funding source for this facility because it would be partially a hospital component in this building. We would qualify for federal direct provider payment programs, which is exclusively available for hospitals. In addition to that, local, state, and national foundation grants and other sources of local funding, including local businesses. To that end, I'm happy to discuss any other questions, comments, or concerns that any of the commissioners may have, and I'd like to invite our board chair, Ed Morton, to the podium so that he can speak to the commitment of our board of directors.
Mr. Burgess, I do have one question before Mr. Morton gets up. No other members are lit up here yet, so I'm going to jump in. On the first line, private philanthropy, naming rights used exclusively for the facility, FF&E, and then it has operations and maintenance. The use of the word operations there is confusing to me. The proposal in December was that that money would be used for FF&E and for maintaining the building. With the word operations in there, I don't know if that means the services you're providing, but if it doesn't mean that, I think that word should be deleted from that.
Okay, it does mean for the services being provided in that specific building.
Okay, so where would the money come then from for maintaining the building itself, the $460,000 a year?
The maintenance of the building would come from that fund as well. Those are, we're going to be securing additional funds for this building. Those 3 categories are all listed within the dollars that need to be raised for the building.
My concern is that, as was pointed out by staff, we need to set aside about $460,000 a year to maintain the building. And now, the naming rights are projected to generate around $10 million, plus or minus. FF&E is going to be somewhere near $5 million. So there's not going to be a huge fund available for maintaining this building. I want to make sure we have that fund.
Yeah, and what I would like to mention, and we can have further discussion on this, is what is identified in the agreement that we have is that David Lawrence Center will provide for the ongoing maintenance, the regular maintenance of that facility. I think the number that was just presented relates to replacement of major equipment across time. So that would be HVAC system and things of that sort. And that currently, under the agreement with the county, indicates that that's county responsibility.
I understand what the current agreement says, but so keep that in mind. That's one of the issues that I had spoken to you about, and I don't know if that's going to create a problem for me down the line here, but I want to make sure we have sufficient funds to provide that $460,000 a year without the taxpayers having to provide additional money for this. So that's one of my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. For those of you who, my name is Edward Morton. I'm the retired, after 35 years, CEO of NCH. I'm now involved in the world of private equity and involved quite heavily in healthcare throughout the country. I'm chairman of David Lawrence. And for those of you here in the room, as you drive by David Lawrence, you see a facility that is 56 years in its construction. That's changing. And the reason why it's changing because we live in a community that deserves the finest mental health facility to bring dignity to the citizens of Collier County as possible. That 56-year-old edifice that you see is going to be torn down. When you raise questions in your own mind about can they do it? Do you believe they can do it? Can they raise this money? You should know that as I stand here today, we have raised over $30 million, setting all kinds of records for David Lawrence, because we have painted a picture for those donors and the people involved with David Lawrence of the need of new facilities in Collier County, including the central receiving facility, which all of us recognize takes care of Baker Act, alcohol issues related to the Marchman Act, amongst other mental illnesses that have to be addressed in a central receiving facility. So the answer about whether or not operational burden can be borne by David Lawrence is answered, I think, by the tremendous response of the public already this year in raising over $30 million in a very short period of time. None of us know what the future holds, and I would be foolish to try to articulate what the future holds for any of us in anything at all. But I can tell you that this board is 100% committed to doing everything in our power to raise all of the funds necessary to sustain and maintain the operations of not only this facility, but of David Lawrence itself. The public demands nothing less from those of us charged with the responsibility of caring for those in dire need of mental health. And I would stand before you today as chair of that board, advising you of our abiding commitment to fill and fulfill that obligation. Thank you very much for the time, and Scott will be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any other registered speakers?
We do, sir. We have 3 speakers, one of whom has ceded time to another speaker.
Any questions for Mr. Burgess?
Yeah.
Then why don't we go ahead and hear from the other speaker, then we'll get back to Mr. Burgess.
Your first speaker is Penelope Hayes, who's been seated 3 additional minutes from Bert Hayes.
Make
Must
sure
be Mr.
Bert's
Hayes.
here. He didn't raise his hand.
I figured that one out, though, sir. And she will be followed by John Mio Jr.
Good morning, Commissioners, and Happy New Year. My name is Penelope Hayes. I am a resident from Painted Leaf Lane in Naples. I am here today on behalf of my neighborhood. Unfortunately, sufficient notice was not given to our community to attend today or to prepare even the notes that I've brought forward. This issue directly impacts our neighborhood and is a public matter. Throughout this process, we, our neighborhood, have been actively involved, as you know from our participation here at prior hearings. Originally scheduled to be heard 2 weeks from now, the hearing date was unexpectedly changed only yesterday to this morning. I became aware of this change at 3 p.m. yesterday just by pure chance and happenstance because I had a conversation with someone who was in the know. At that time, the change was so fresh that there was still no time certain for this agenda item. When I checked the BCB meeting schedule on your website at dinner time last night, the date change had still not been reflected for the public to view. And I don't know if it has been now. I took my chances, changed my schedule, and was able to be here now. At prior meetings, our neighborhood demonstrated a significant interest and commitment, with over 50 neighbors in attendance at meetings and hundreds of petitions signed. We have followed the evolution or devolution of this project closely, including reductions in beds, levels, scope, and therefore reach and service, due to budgetary challenges tied to the location. And for this reason, we saw changes that had us want to be here when this was heard. As the owners of a construction business, my husband and I have been perplexed from the start about how this project's budget could be feasible given the challenges of the site. The parcel is forested and unserviced. From a construction perspective, significant resources would be consumed simply by preparing the land, including clearing, grading, and implementing water management and infrastructure and drainage, then power, water supply, sewer, parking, and the wall that was promised to our community, all due to location. Since I last spoke to you in this room a month short of 2 years ago, we have all waited and watched the project's financial viability in this location dwindle to a genuine gamble. And still, we know there were and are location options that ranked higher when professionally studied with far greater financial efficiency. Financial efficiency matters. 2 years to try to make it work matters. At that time, and yet a lack of sufficient public notice for today's hearing. On 12 hours notice, 8 of those being sleeping hours, my neighborhood could not be here this morning. On their behalf, I strongly object to this item being heard today and respectfully request that this item be returned to its original hearing date of January 28th. The trajectory of this location is going in one direction, a gamble. From the data in the original engineering site study reporting 3 locations with better measurables to the new information that has forced bed count to narrow from 130 beds to 87 beds, from 2 stories to 1 story, and time delays, and so on. The budget, as at today, is a gamble. And we just heard, and I wrote some notes, the quotes were opportunities for grants, promises from big donors, and, quote, we are going to be getting additional funds. And another quote, we do deserve the finest mental health facility. Well, we do. That was the original plan. That doesn't cut it for me. Promises and maybes. The data has been speaking for 2 years. The use of a GPS analogy, let me just wrap it with that. When others cannot change course due to their own perspectives, it is this board that recalculates. Someone else said 17 times we've been before you over 7 years. This is budget insanity. The location doesn't work. A shovel has not yet gone in the ground, and we have a trajectory here that tells us that more factors will arise. And I know that. The specifics of this location alone make this budget number a gamble. I, as well as our neighbors, would have wanted to meet with you privately and would still like to do so. I would like to recommend a return to the original date for this hearing, and please do not approve a budget amendment. Thank you very much.
Your final speaker on this item is John Mio, Jr. Hope I'm saying that right, sir.
You're not.
You are, sir.
Mayo.
Mayo, yes, John Mayo, 2925 Cocoa Lakes Drive. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm just a little bit behind the curve here, but I'm coming up here, and the previous speaker kind of touched on all the points. As a taxpayer and as a representative of the Collier County Republican Executive Committee, I find it very kind of shaky when I hear funding for such projects like the David Lawrence Center are assured by donations, or the cost is going to be covered by certain entities, and that really gives me concern, because as representing, the people that I do represent in my position, one of the major concerns is the cost of living in this county, which, of course, everywhere in the entire United States is going up dramatically. And just adding, and I have nothing negative to say about mental health, but there's a lot of issues and there's a lot of people suffering in this county that are suffering from other things besides mental health and don't have the ability or facility to cover those costs. So, not to take too much of your time, because I only have a couple of minutes and trying to bring up the speed, when I hear funding will be provided, I'd like to see that in a contractual form. I'd like to see that to assure the taxpayers that this county and these taxpayers of this county are not on the hook to cover the cost of this facility that hasn't been already described and detailed by you, the commissioners. So I appreciate you letting me speak, and thank you for your work. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Burgess?
Would you like me to speak to anything in particular, or are you going, or?
I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to add. We do have a couple lights lit up here, so Mr. Colwell?
Well, thank you, Chairman. I didn't really have a question for Mr. Burgess, but I just wanted to make a comment, or I just wanted to get clarity. I know on something you had said, Chairman, reference to the 3 particular bullet points that their money coming in from their side will cover the operation maintenance / the FFE and stuff like that. I mean, I know we had talked about this at the other meeting, reference to furniture purchase, stuff like that, and operational costs or maintenance. But I think our staff was referring to $400,000 a year to keep aside for catastrophic issues that a building that we own and we're building. And I think the community, or some of the citizens, are a little confused. The money to build the building, and that is for the people, is the county's building. We're building that. We have the money to build it. These, when they're talking about the funding and grants and stuff like that, have nothing to do with the building of the building. It's about their own end coming in as a provider to run the building, how they're going to handle their providing that. And that's a contract. I mean, that's a contract we have with them. If they can't meet their end of their contract and provide the service we require of them to run the building, we'll find somebody else. We'll find somebody else willing to come in and run the building. But the building is ours. It's the county's building. It's the county's mental receiving facility that we owe the county to build. It's something that we probably needed in the last 20 years. So I don't want to get confusion that we as a county is looking for grants to build this building. I just don't want people to understand. I want people to understand that's not what's going on here. So I just wanted to clarify that. But I know I've owned properties before and people have rented, and certain levels of being a renter, you're responsible for certain levels of maintenance on a day-to-day basis. But if my HV or my plumbing fails in my building I own, it's usually on me to replace. So I think that's what John is referring to, so we don't mix the two of daily day maintenance versus 20, 30 years from now we have to replace the HVAC system. Because it might not even be David Lawrence in that building that day. There may be another provider that may come in and got the contract to run our facility. I don't know. I can't say one way or the other, but I just want to shed some kind of eyes on that, and I think that's the way I'm receiving it. But correct me if I'm wrong.
Ms. Hayes, I know you want to say something. We don't generally do that, but go ahead and
Just more to the point, why I would have wanted the chance to speak to you privately, to each of you privately. It's beyond the maintenance of the property. We do know that this budget has run over quite a bit, and we do know that the scope of the project that would benefit this community has been minimized. And so there are things that I would have wanted to, in our neighborhood, in our community, would have wanted to discuss with you and have that opportunity, as we were aware of the original date 2 weeks from now. So I'm just going to go back to the original point that I was making, and maybe not to reference a few things that were said here on topics of other types of budget, but just going back to that the budget has gone over what taxpayers signed up for. And we would like to talk about that more. That just does not sit well. And I think that the reduction in the scope of this project is not what the community signed up for.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Commissioner McDaniel.
Yes, I'm going to, and I hope you'll forgive me for this. A lot of you folks are my friends. There's a lot of history here. There's a lot of history here. If you'll indulge me for a moment, as a neophyte commissioner, my first year in March of 17, I traveled to Washington, D.C. and orchestrated a meeting with HHS in Washington, D.C., and the whole staff of HHS was in the room, and the head of the United States, Eastern United States for HHS, was on the conference table on a phone call. And we're all suffering from the opioid pandemic that's been amongst us for an eternity, far too long. And I'm going on and on and on about it. And the nice lady from the Eastern United States, well, Commissioner McDaniel, what does Collier County's mental health plan say about this, this, and this? And I don't recall what the question was. And I said, well, ma'am, I'm not sure. I'll find out and I'll get you the answer. And so a little later on in that hour-long meeting, she says, well, Commissioner McDaniel, what does Collier County's mental health plan say about that, that, and that? And I said, well, ma'am, I don't have the mental health plan with me, but I'll be certain to find the answer and get back to you. So I finished the meeting, came back from Washington, D.C., sat down with our county leadership at that particular time, and I asked our county leadership, what does our mental health plan say about this, this, and this? What does our mental health plan say about that, that, and that? Well, sir, we don't have a mental health plan. And I said, how in the heck are we going to get any money, especially from the federal government and or the state money, if we don't have a mental health plan? Well, right away, Commissioner Solis grabbed onto it. A stakeholder committee was devised. Mr. Burgess chaired that stakeholder committee. And 16, 18 months later, boom, we have a mental health plan. Wonderful. A portion of that mental health plan was to hire, engage an outside third-party consultant to give recommendations to us where this mental health facility should be located. This is a copy of that was given in February of 21. And the current location that we're discussing here with regard to amendments for a contract for purchase or contract for construction were 4 and 5 of the recommendations. 4 and 3 of the numbered locations were number 1 on this government facility. All of them, by the way, went over in cost expenditures. Every single one of the locations was more than the $25 million that we had allotted. And so gyrations were done. It was originally proposed 130 unit facility, 130 bed facility, then it got squashed back to 120, and then now it's currently 188, I think, is the existing facility. And the cost to construct has continually gone up and up and up. There has never been a reduction in the need. So this discussion today isn't with regard to the need. This discussion today is with regard to where this facility needs to be. I even went back and brought the minutes from the site selection meeting. And I was chided a little bit because I voted for this particular site selection. But one of the things that a lot of folks don't understand is that if you're in the negative on a vote, do you get to bring an item back? No. As a board member, I lose having that opportunity to come back. I supported this, but I also, in reading of these minutes, Commissioner Taylor brought up a very important issue, and that had to do with an RFP for the operator for this facility. And I haven't seen that we actually ever did do that. Did we do that? Did we do an RFP for the operator of this facility? Does anybody know?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And then, I'm not, and here again, this is no reflection on you, or you, Father Orsi, especially. Yeah, I understand. I know I'm going to get a phone call after this is all done. This is no reflection on David Lawrence. David Lawrence has done an amazing amount of good. I have personal friends who have benefited from family members who have been treated there and are successful in the world. So please don't take what I'm saying as disparaging against David Lawrence Center. What I'm saying is, in these minutes, I brought up the then estimated $2 to $3 million of operational O&M costs. Commissioner Solis agreed with me during those periods of time. Commissioner Taylor agreed with me, and we agreed to proceed forward. And we did, in fact, proceed forward with a recommendation outside of the third-party consultant that the county hired to recommend for the location of this facility, on the guise that it was not conducive to have a treatment facility in the shadow of the jail, for less of a better term. And I don't necessarily disagree with that rationale, but on the same token, it's better to have it somewhere than not at all. As it stands right now, David Lawrence Center is the only mental health facility that our community has that can assist our sheriff's office when they've arrested somebody who is suffering from a mental illness or an overdose, because that's a place David Lawrence has to take those folks. Our deputy can take them there and drop them off and receive the necessary treatment from a detoxification standpoint, so on and so forth, whether incarceration is needed or not. But they're still off-site in the event that there is judicial needs and/or incarceration. I haven't seen, other than promises, the opportunity for the support for this operation to continue. I have seen and do know that on the sites that were recommended as numbered 3, 4, and 5, not necessarily in order of, they were just numbered so that we could distinguish between them all. In sites 3, 4, and 5, number 4 was the number 1 recommended facility by the consultant, and we went to number 1/number 2. The board did at that particular point in time. I voted along with that on the proviso that we would be seeing definitive operating agreements and performance agreements with David Lawrence Center. I voted for that so that I would have an opportunity at some particular point in time to speak with regard to that. Candidly, Mr. Burgess, last month you terribly disappointed me. Your PowerPoint presentation that you put up there had to do with these operating expenses and funding sources. And the last statement on the last slide that you put up squirreled it for me, because it basically said if you weren't successful in raising enough money, you're going to cut services. So that's when I get to talk to Father Orsi about whether or not we continue to fund the operation if you're not successful in doing that. And that's when I get to talk about the need, and I don't want to have to talk about the need. I want this facility. I want it to be here on campus. I happen to know from an expenditure of taxpayers' money that we're already in the process to remodel Building H or W?
Building H.
Building H. And if I read the report properly, that was back even before in November of 20, Building H is close to 75,000 square feet, if I interpreted those things correctly. Building H is 75,000 square feet in excess of the proposed building that we're talking about building. I happen to know that we have to remodel that building anyway. We're already down the path with that. And all we have to do is relocate the county agencies that are located in that building. And I happen to know that the cost of that today, for us to use it, it certainly isn't a facility that can take a person suffering from a mental illness and detoxification currently, but I happen to know that the estimated cost for that rehabilitation are $30 million. And it's on land that we own. And we can hire you to come and be an operator. One of the things that I brought up multiple times 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when we were picking this site, was I know for a fact there are multiple providers of mental health services in our community, and folks that are suffering from addiction, substance abuse. I would prefer that we not go forward with this on a promise to pay, to support, to raise enough money for it to be effective. I would prefer that we stop doing this and go forward with the site selection that was recommended by our consultant, that is within the government's purview, that is within the expenditure and control of Collier County and the Collier County taxpayers. So there's an unload for you.
All right. We do have Commissioner Hall online. Commissioner Hall?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wow, I have everything written down to say before I heard Commissioner McDaniel. And first of all, just like he said, this has nothing to do, what I'm about to say has nothing to do with stalling or ignoring a mental health need in Collier County. But it has everything to do about how we're going to go about to meet that need. In the last meeting that we had, I had a lot of this stuff started rolling around, but I mean, I felt like we were too far down the road for me to really say what I was thinking and to be honest. But whether we are or whether we aren't, I'm still going to be honest. Number two, some may think that the train has already left the station on this project. But I can, what if the bridge is out down the tracks? And so while we can stop the train, I really want to. And I don't want to just stop the train. I don't want to just put the quietus on this. Terry, I don't know how you spell that. But while we have a chance, I really think that we need to take a strong look at doing something different, something smarter. Number one, budget-wise. Number two, service-wise. Number three, money-wise. And number four, operationally. So, it's been mentioned that services have been cut from 130 beds to 87. That's a 33% reduction in the original plan, with basically a 50% increase in the budget. So we're going backwards in one area and going in the wrong direction in the other area. It's almost $50 million to do this of surtax money. Commissioner Kowal, sure, I agree with you. The money's there. We can do that. We have it. But whether we should or not still remains to be seen. If David Lawrence Center, which is an amazing organization, they've done an amazing job. But I would also like to see if we do something different, just say in Building H, just for an example, whether we do Building H, whether we expand the jail, whether we look at other options there around the campus, whatever we decide to do, if we do, maybe we could cooperate instead of putting all of the operational burden on David Lawrence Center. Maybe they could cooperate with other faith-based organizations. David Lawrence Center is spectacular at mental health, in the schizophrenia and the bipolar, and every mental health issue. They're amazing. They do great work. But when it comes to addiction, alcohol, drugs, maybe the faith-based businesses have a greater success rate with those. So if we did get to pause this for now, come back and ask, Naples Retreat Organization or Matthew's House, or, I'm not familiar with all of the other faith-based people, but they could all cooperate in meeting the mental health and addiction needs of our people. Operationally, if we did this, nothing would change for David Lawrence Center. They would still have all of their funding avenues and have all of the things that they've already identified to help them with the operational needs. What I don't want to do is put the cart before the horse. We just had a discussion with Gargiulo. They were coming forth on a big what if. I still feel like there's a what if involved operationally. And now we find out that it's county responsibility to put $500,000 back for capital improvements down the road. But that's a financial commitment on the taxpayers every month. surtax funds are gone, but this will be on the taxpayers. I think taking a look at the original plan to use county assets is a smart thing to do. I like Commissioner McDaniel. I don't want to be the one to squash this or to put a pause on it, but I do want to do something that's smart, and I do want to do something that I can sleep well at night. Yes, when I first came in, Commissioner Kowal mentioned we started this in one of our first meetings. And Commissioner Solis came to me when I transitioned into the seat, and he said, this is a big thing for me. And he had put a lot of work into it. I want to see our mental health facilities, our mental health crisis. I want to see that met very well in Collier County. So I'm not putting a halt on any of that. But while we can stop the train, I think we should, and I would be willing to look at everything and look at it soon. I don't want to be 2 years down the road, still not having a decision, still not having construction cost. The costs are greater than what anticipated, but they're not twice. So with that.
All right. Commissioner LoCastro.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm convinced this is the right location. I mean, some things that are being missed because it's 2 years later is when we looked at these 5 locations, one of the reasons why the locations that were suggested fell out and we defaulted to the location where we are is because we all had a conversation that there were some very specific parameters that weren't taken into consideration. And so I won't get into big detail, but it wasn't just a guess that we were like, wow, location number 1 is the best, but let's pick 5 or vice versa. It wasn't that. It was a long conversation. We painstakingly went down a list and said, okay, so we had a construction company tell us what they thought the best location was. And there were other positives and negatives of the different locations, but it wasn't a guess. And if I remember, maybe it wasn't unanimous, but I remember it was a deep dive discussion. I wish we would have done this much discussion on some of the other things that cost hundreds of millions of dollars that we spend county money on, like the sports complex, the Marco Island Executive Airport, Great Wolf Lodge, and all these other things that, you know, we sometimes vote on in 15 minutes. We've been talking about this one for 2 years, and if you had the sheriff up here, he'd say one of our greatest needs is, mental health support. I'm not looking to go backwards. This is the location. Okay, and we painstakingly went through a great amount of detail to decide why this was the location. I actually think Commissioner Colwell said it best. We keep throwing around the word David Lawrence Center. This is the county's building, and if David Lawrence Center promises to step forward and can't, and they totally drop the ball, sorry, Scott, you're out of the pool. We're going to put out an RFP, and one of your competitors is going to come in here and run the facility. And what I care about is the delivery of the service to the county, not who's writing the checks or, has their name up on the wall. And I would think even your board would feel that same way, that the number one responsibility is delivering these services to the community. And I think we're getting all caught up in location and who's going to buy the furniture and all that. Like Commissioner Colwell said, if in the end, some of the things that you're hoping don't happen, I think there's plenty of people that want to step in and run a 5-star facility here in Collier County, and maybe collectively it's a group of people then that sort of do it. But I'm not supportive of going back to step -1 and talking about, should we put it back at the jail? We already did all that. So if someone's got a better mousetrap today, we needed to hear about that 2 years ago. And we actually did. And so I think this is just about the money and who's going to be in charge and where the shortfalls might be. And like I said, my colleague, Commissioner Cole, simplified it very easily and just said, hey, if David Lawrence Center says they can step forward and then they can't, there's other people who we can entice to come in here and continue to move forward. So I'm not looking to go back to square zero. I think we already have had all those conversations. The one thing that does concern me is when hearing from the citizens. I mean, even though sometimes, we unfairly catch stones that we're stifling citizens and everything, that couldn't be further from the truth. And it does concern me when any citizen comes to the podium and says, I would be here with 20 more people who have concerns, and maybe they would all be saying the same thing. But that's irrelevant. Your voice at the podium is what this country guarantees. And so we all found out about this yesterday. That doesn't mean, sometimes things, happen that way. But I do have some concerns that there might be some things I would hear from your neighbors, or that you said you would have meetings with all of us. Maybe, I can't assume I know exactly what you would be saying, and I'm going to make a decision without having heard any of that. So that's the bigger thing that concerns me. But this is the right location, whether it's David Lawrence Center or somebody else. I don't think we're talking about $1 trillion, worth of problem here. And I think we need to figure out what we can do, and not so much of, well, this is difficult. This is difficult. We've done things that were less tight in the county, and we've moved forward. It seems like we can't get off of the dime on this one, which is very disappointing. Very disappointing. But I'll end it in summary saying, I understand these 5 sites, but this was a meeting 2 years ago, and I remember in grave detail why we did default to the location here, and it wasn't just a fluke. It was detailed conversation of certain parameters that weren't taken into consideration, and why the locations around here popped up closer to the top, but why that was a little bit faulty. And I think Commissioner Solis agreed as well, but I'll just speak for me. I found that at the end, after we had deep conversations, the right location was David Lawrence Center. Didn't know at the time what it would look like, but that would be the spot. And then whether it was DLC leading the charge or some other vendor, okay, so be it. We'll get there. But I think that's the direction that we need to go. I'm not for relooking at these sites, and I'm not for looking at David Lawrence Center and saying, you have to do it. Like we talked the other day, and you said, I can't guarantee anything. So if some of those promises or some of those things that you guys are ponying up to turn out to not be possible through no fault of your own, then we do what Commissioner Cowell says. We look for another partner, or we add a partner to this group. That's what I would be for, to continue to move this forward.
At that, I remember that hearing very well in terms of the site selection. As a matter of fact, when I went into that hearing, my preferred site was the museum site. And obviously, we were persuaded with data and information that was not going to work. We have 3 commissioners lit up. Dan, you have something else, or is this? All right, Commissioner Colwell, did you have anything else?
I do wish to speak.
Oh, okay.
You want him to go first? I don't know
Yeah,
where we're at.
You're number 1 on the list.
I just, I don't want this to devolve into an argument amongst us. We're not going back to -1. We're not going back to 0. We're actually addressing things that haven't been done, that were asked for and talked about in the original site selection hearing that haven't been accomplished. And we still haven't yet received I feel, satisfactory protection for the expenditure of the taxpayers' money. You said it in this meeting, in these minutes. This isn't our money. This is the taxpayers' money, and it's our job. And we can do what Commissioner Kowal has suggested with the facility here on campus. We can do what's been suggested with less than the $50 million that's been appropriated for this particular facility. And we can then bring in multiple providers, including David Lawrence Center, and have a say-so over the operational aspects and the expenses that are associated. We can do all of those things and keep that facility right here on campus where we have, and one of the rationales that I didn't agree with was the onus of being in proximity to the jail. Now, I do understand there are people who won't seek assistance on their own because of the proximity to the jail. But on the other side of the equation, what do we have here on site? Great big bus transfer station, public transportation, health department, the judicial system, because a lot of the folks that are suffering from mental issues and substance abuse oftentimes have judicial issues that need to be attended, so they're right here. And the facilities, there's more than enough room in the building that we already own. the sales tax money can be expended to rehab that particular building in order to facilitate this and have it here on campus, those things can in fact be done. I don't concur, Commissioner LaCastro, that we're going backwards. I actually think we're better protecting the taxpayers' money here by rethinking what's in fact going on and having a discussion about that.
Commissioner Colwell.
Thank you, Chairman. On the lines of what Commissioner McDaniel's talking about, I can remember too a lot of conversation at these different locations, and if I remember correctly, there was some of the things that popped up was reference to funding from the state and some other sources that for different programs that may come down the pipes from higher governments than us, that they would not entertain these type of grants if we had it on the facility here. So there was some other layers to this that we looked at, and I think and why we started moving the location and where the location ended up being was it was more than just a numbers thing by a study done by a basic contractor to sites to put this thing at. I didn't know Building H was one of the options in the original. It was?
Number 3.
Number 3, okay. I hate to say this, I hate to use cliches, but Commissioner Hall's talking about the train on the track. Anybody can stop the train. Anybody can pull that brake before you go over that bridge. Hard part's getting it off that track and getting it to point A, from point A to point B. And I just like anybody else in this room keeps saying, these are promises or this or that. I'm just hearing a lot of promises of what we can do or can't do from this point on. We know where we're going. We're on this train. We've been on this track for many years now, and we're moving. We're one day from making a vote today to having a contractor ready to start breaking ground pretty much. It ends today. And if it doesn't happen today, it probably won't happen until 2030. Even if we decided not to do it today, it'll probably delay this for another 4 or 5 years. Trying to find a site to do it at. And then we have to look at, in that time period, I'm going to pull on the heartstrings like Commissioner McDaniels likes to do sometimes with
Never.
Yeah, with his road maintenance thing. But, imagine the amount of lives that may have been saved or that in a time period over 4 years or 5 years, of kicking this thing down the road again. It's a need. We all know it's a need. We've needed it for a decade now, and it hasn't gotten done. And we're one day from moving this thing forward today, and we're sitting here arguing about it again. I'm not arguing, but we're putting out our points. But I hate to be, I hate to say it, but we are exactly what people say we are. We're the government. We can't do anything fast. We can't do anything decisive. We can't get anything done. I mean, we are exactly that definition today if we keep this argument up. And then I always look at motive. I look at motive, why people are here today or not here today. And, I know this came up also on us pretty quick. A lot of us didn't get a lot of warning to take a deeper dive. But, I mean, it's almost the same thing for verbiage that we did a few weeks ago. We just now are rehearing it back to us about the reference to because if you look at John's presentation, same exact numbers, same exact max amount and all that. It's just a few tweaks to what David Lawrence is willing to do to get the additional fundings to move this thing forward. So this is not a mystery. This is not no new information at all. This is almost verbatim what we already talked about in a meeting 4 weeks ago. But you look at motive of why people, I mean, I understand these neighbors here were at the 8-hour marathon when we decided for this site, and they have a vested interest. They have a motive. They don't want it in their neighborhood. And that's their motive. And I can probably guarantee if we gave them another 2 weeks, they'd have 50 people here. But they're going to have the same exact argument they had in that meeting. We sat here for 8 hours discussing the location. That's not going to change. They have motive. And they see now an opportunity, maybe through some commissioners or maybe through their own device, that they have an opportunity to stop this and get it out of their neighborhood. I bet they can get 60 people here 2 weeks from now, maybe 100. But that's not going to change what we've already done. We've already heard that argument. They have a motive, I get it. But that motive has nothing to do with we're talking about funding, we're talking about the nuances of something we already started that we need to come to fruition. It has to come to fruition eventually. And I'm just saying, I just don't want to keep kicking this can down the road.
Right. We're going to vote on this in just a minute, but we have two commissioners that are lit up. Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make a comment about what Commissioner LaCastro said. True, had great discussion over all of this. What's better, this place or that place? But we didn't have the great discussion based on twice the budget. It has nothing to do with meeting our need, kicking the can down the road, putting a stop on the train. All we got to do is, when another train's coming at it, there's a switch. They pull the switch, the train goes by, and the other one comes through. So we're not talking about stopping the train, just hitting the switch and changing tracks. If we go forward with this today, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to wish DLC the best. I hope they win. In my heart of hearts, I hope everything is good. I just didn't want to see us spend the money and do something that we already decided we were going to do, and maybe there's something smarter that we can do. So, if Commissioner Kowal mentioned, if David Lawrence Center doesn't wind up being the operation entity down the road, and we can get somebody else, we have that option, but we don't have to exercise that option by spending $50 million of our surtax and taking a gamble on, not a gamble, just an educated guess. I really believe that they can come through with the operational monies, but we don't have that assurance right now. We have a plan, but we don't have the execution of that plan. So, like I said, I don't think that we're stopping going to -1. I don't think we're kicking the can down the road. Anybody that wants to say that government can't do anything, they need to come sit in our shoes. They need to run for office and see what there is that we deal with. We could spend their money just haphazardly and just willy-nilly just so we could say, yeah, we got it done, and we got it done fast. But I'd rather get it done smart than worry about getting it done fast. We do have a need in Collier County. I want to meet the need. I want to be the best county in Florida for all of our mental health patients and addiction patients. That is my ultimate goal. But I just wanted to bring that up. I wanted to have the discussion and let you know where my heart was.
Commissioner LaCastro. Commissioner McDaniel, did you want to speak again?
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, you're next, Commissioner McDaniel.
Am I next? Okay.
You're next.
Commissioner Kowal, I want to assure you of something. I have no motive other than to protect the taxpayers' money for Collier County. Have you looked at the budget analysis that our clerk of courts did and gave yesterday? The cost and scope of this facility started at 130 units, dropped down to 120 units at a perceived expense of $271,000 per unit. Now we've dropped down to 87 units, and the cost has gone up, and we're now up to $644,000 per unit with this location. I have no motive here other than, now, the neighbors, granted, they have a motive, and if given enough time, could maybe come in and have another bite at this apple. My motive here is to protect the tax dollars of Collier County residents, period, the end. My motive is not to stall this. Father Orsi and I, Ed Morton, Scott, we've all talked about the need. The sheriff started talking about the need again last month when the conversation was brought up. There's no argument about the need. And one point to make very, very clear, the sheriff has always been consistent on saying that the necessity of the need, but he hasn't ever specified the location. He hasn't ever weighed in on the actual location, and I don't know necessarily, that we need him to. But I just want to qualify the fact that he has never weighed in. He's only weighed in on the need, and there is no argument that there is in fact a need. My argument, my motive, is strictly to protect the taxpayers' money and have a say-so how this all in fact goes. And I offer up an alternative. We already have facilities on campus that we own, purportedly can be accomplished in an equivalent period of time and potentially for less money. I haven't looked at the actual budget numbers. I know that we're at 30 million for the expense for the rehabilitation of Building H for our needs. So that may adjust a little bit in between then and now. But one of the things one of the things that's really distressed me all along is we have this enormous, and with this new facility, there is a focus on the pipeline to the adult population. There is an increase in David Lawrence's capacities to tend our youth. But that could be the sole purpose of that facility over by David Lawrence, strictly for the pipeline that feeds our adult population. Because I truly believe in my heart, if we get to that bunch, before they move into the adult population, before they're moved into the judicial system as an adult, that David Lawrence centers could expand the treatment of that youth population and help then ultimately reduce both the population that we have to service in the jail and at the central receiving facility that could be in fact on site. And so I'm not looking to stall this. I haven't changed my opinion since these budget numbers started to come forward. If anything else, it's just fortified the necessity to not continue on with this particular site selection, budget amounts. It's just, it's as Commissioner Hall said, it's time to redirect. It's past time to redirect.
Commissioner LoCastro.
You know, how disappointing. We can build a $200 million sports complex, but we can't sit here and figure out how to move forward after 2 years on something so important to our county. We're not here to debate site selection. We already did that. So that would be going back to square one. I guess in order to try to move this needle forward and see if there's an appetite for 10B rather than go back and forth about what we can do, what we can't do. I actually do remember having conversations with the sheriff saying, and I won't put words in his mouth, and I don't know what's in the minutes, but I do recall him saying something to the fact that it's not advantageous to have a mental health facility right next to a jail. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, Scott. You've probably talked more with the sheriff, one-on-one, but we had those conversations. That train has left the station, okay? And shame on us that we're sitting here. I do feel like we're at square -1. It's not that it's not healthy conversation, and I don't think any commissioner needs to keep reiterating that they're trying to not waste taxpayer dollars. None of us are trying to. Nobody wakes up here in the morning wondering how. Trust me, we waste taxpayer dollars on things a lot less important than this. But this is the location, and to just see if there's an appetite there. I make a motion to recommend to approve the guaranteed maximum price as stated in item 10B, and I'm looking for a second.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second to get that on the floor for a vote. We still have two commissioners lit up. Commissioner Kowal, did you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I just I wasn't directing my comment directly to you, Commissioner McDaniel, about a motive or vested interest. I referred more to the community that had spoken in the past against that location. Sure, they have a motive, and I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I can understand their motive. It is what it is. But you can't sit here before me today and throw a number out that says, 30 million, we'll figure this or that for Building H. And I mean, reality is this, that, when we're building a facility, and I'll have to divert back to my prior career, this building is completely different because it's going to have a secure sally port for patrol cars that will pull in that are safe to unload and load people that are suicidal, that are Baker acted, some people that are already convicted of crimes, that you have to have certain facilities designed a certain way to have this type of drop off and pick up, where it's a secure location with a sally port that the doors close behind you and stuff like that. I don't know if we can convert Building H to accommodate some of the things that's designed into this building which you're throwing out a number, maybe 30 million or so, but we could probably, if you want to take a deep dive and look at it, I can probably guarantee it'll be closer to $49 million. When you said and done, when you convert that building to accommodate the type of facility that we're going to build out on that site that's designed so we can safely transport people that are Baker acted and other people that are already convicted of crimes that need mental health care. So I get it. It looks as prima facie on face value. You can say, well, that's a building, we have it, we own it, and we're going to remodel it anyways. But that doesn't mean we're going to remodel it to the standard that it has to be at to facilitate this type of operation. So these are just some little things I look at from outside looking in. And I'd love to say, yeah, we got a $20 million building somewhere that will facilitate and meet all our needs, but I don't think we do. And I don't think we can have, I think we'll be at the same price tag, or maybe even more when it comes down to spending our taxpayers' dollars on this particular project. So I just want to get this moving in the right direction. I think we all understand the need for it.
Mr. Chairman, can I just add some clarity to my motion when you deem appropriate?
Commissioner McDaniel, did you have something else?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Go ahead, Commissioner LaCastro.
No, I was just going to say, I think my motion isn't that we put shovels in the ground tomorrow. I think that there's still a lot of homework assignments to do. There's citizens to hear from. We still have some budget things that are unresolved, but I don't think this is the day where we flick the switch and we switch tracks. I'm just not convinced that we're at that emergent point right now. I do agree with Commissioner Kowal that I think that it's great to go back to, hey, how about this site and how about that site? And in the end, I thought we were trying to build a state-of-the-art facility for Collier County that would stand the test of time. If we're trying to do this thing on the cheap, let's find a conference room somewhere here in this building and we'll put 10 beds in it and we'll call it a day. We weren't trying to do that. We were trying to build something that was as amazing as the sports complex, as proud as we would be. And if that means we have to squeeze a few extra dollars, if that means David Lawrence Center doesn't fully come to the table with what they had hoped to get, and we have to go to a third party or we have to do something unique, I thought we had 5 smart people up here that were supposed to be able to do that, so that 20 years from now we can say, wow, what an incredible resource we brought to Collier County. I feel like we're sitting here trying to shave the edges off of something that's so critical to our community, and that's why I think we continue to move forward and figure out where the shortfalls are, where the concerns are. Doesn't mean we can't shape the edges and round off the corners or whatnot, but I don't think this is the time where we flick the switch and change tracks or we have the train going backwards. I'm sorry?
You've already expressed that.
Okay, well, I get to express it again. I'm lit up. So that's my position, and I appreciate Commissioner Kowal seconding my motion.
Commissioner McDaniel and Mr. Miller, don't light up any more commissioners on this.
I won't.
Last speaker.
I won't hit any more buttons, I promise. I'm really working hard to not take offense when you make comparisons of shortcuts and short balling and stalling and all that sort of stuff. And I'd appreciate it if you didn't even allude to the fact that
Just
any
say
of
what
us
you
up
want to
here
say. I get to say. I get to say my words.
I am
Say
asking
what you want to say.
All right, gentlemen,
interrupt
okay,
me.
hang on just a second.
You don't have to critique my words.
Commissioner Castro, please, for just a moment. Commissioner McDaniel, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, sir. From a conversation standpoint, Commissioner Kowal, I am brought up the minutes from the site selection discussion. It was recommended to us by our staff at that point in time that before we enter into this, Commissioner Solis concurred with it, that we have the prenup agreement because we're about to marry an organization. We never went to bid for an RFP for operators for this facility. And so far, the prenup that I've seen so far is we're going to own this building. We're going to care for the capital asset maintenance, just like you were talking about there. They're going to take care of it. But so far, the only thing I've seen is a promise from that particular operator, nor have we had any responses from any other operators to do that. And it's not uneasy to unmarry somebody with this facility in its proximity where it is. It could be really easy if it were here on campus on a site that we in fact already own. And I've alleged that all along.
All right. We have a motion to approve the staff recommendation to accept the changes to the guaranteed maximum price contract. If there are no other questions or comments, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, passes 3-2. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a break for lunch. Let's come back at, would 1:20 be enough? It's a little less than an hour, but 1:20. All right, we're going to be in recess until 1:20.
Yes.
That Molly